All right. All right. Hello. Hello. Hey, boys and girls. How are we tonight? How are we doing? Stuff. Anything wrong? Why is everything always wrong? All right, good. Good. Are we good? We good? What's it do? Pressure 2. I need to change that. Ding. That one. Here. Paste. Okay, go. There we go. There we go. Shoulda. We haven't been running for freaking... We haven't been running for 5 hours? Really? We haven't been running for 5 hours? It feels like it. Good God, I literally just walked in the door.
All day, every day.
Just walked in the door. Oh God. Boy, my timing is impeccable. What's happening, brother?
Impeccable, guys.
Literally just walked in the door, ran through, washed the hands, took a piss, filled the water, started the computer, got the stuff on the camera. Kenny's on the mic. That's exactly how that went down.
That's how it went down.
Oh,
If
Oh
you
my
guys don't
God.
know who I'm talking to, this is the legendary Jason Craze of Slow Fuse Gaming.
A legend in my own mind. Hello, peoples.
And he's going to be doing some painting today, and we're going to host his ass.
Oh God. Be nice. Be gentle.
If you guys don't know how this works.
Spit on it.
Spit on it. We're going to host him, aka raid him. Go over there, wait for the host to come through, click over to his channel, engage in the chat. Don't linger behind here after the host. You're gonna want to show this man some love, and I'm gonna be hanging out with him for a few minutes before I go away. So it's gonna be a nice, easy transition.
Yes. Nice, easy transitions. We like it. Just don't bring in that chaos shit over here.
You guys heard it. Only chaos stars today.
Only chaos. And
Chaos
thank you so much, Ferris, for the
authorized
donation.
emote.
We're already trying to fill the cheer cup, but none of his made it in the cup. What's up with that nonsense? Dollar, what's going on? Killing time. Ferris, as always. What's happening, boys and girls? Welcome, welcome, welcome. How'd the show go, Kenny?
Yo, so far so good.
So far, so good.
We had
We're 3 hours into Amazing Friday.
Oh yeah, man! Friday's a big day, obviously, with all the tutorials, everything we do, and then a stream. So I mean, Fridays are always busy for us, but we always have a lot of fun because we have the best, coolest group of friends that watch us do our hobby.
This community is amazing. Amazing. This is the first Friday I have missed. Like literally the first Friday I have missed, and it's because we had to go run around and hook the trailer up to the truck and do all this freaking errand running that had to happen late in the day, and just got home. Like not only did I miss the whole thing, didn't even get to come in and get a breather before having to turn on the camera. So that's how we're doing. I'm taking a little break. I'm breathing right now.
What did you guys have to hook up to the trailer for?
Deep breaths. I had to go. We have to keep our trailer because at Jen's neighborhood, we have to keep my 16-foot box trailer over in storage, and so I had to go pick it up. We've got a guy coming tomorrow to pick up a motorcycle from me that's in the trailer, and then Sunday is another one of our motorcycle swap meets. So of course, everything motorcycle related is in that trailer. Have to hook it up. Have to go get it. Needed it to be here in the morning. So there you go. There's my boring have to go get a trailer story. Nearly cut my finger off. It doesn't look like much, but my knuckle is bruised as hell.
Let me tell you this: every time I have to work with a trailer, I always walk right into the trailer hitch with my shin.
DM Adam, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, guys, and welcome everybody that's coming in from Kenny's. Make sure on our end we're doing a good job of throwing up some bombquisition symbols. Stop all that chaos. Don't let it in here. Don't let it just have a free ride. And thank you again for all the hosts. Orc Pride, Tyrell, what's going on?
Hey, somebody likes us.
Sykes, what's going on? Thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everybody from Kenny's channel, welcome. This wall of text prevents me from seeing all of your wonderful names, but I swear to God, I love you all. Love your faces. Thank you for joining us. If you've never been here on a Friday, like Kenny explained, we do 6 continual hours. We do it Tuesday, too. We flip both sides of the week. On Tuesdays, I go first. We hand it off to Kenny. He goes on into the night. And on Fridays, Kenny goes first, as you've seen, and you've been paying attention. And then he hands it off to me and Jen. Jen is cardboard Jen tonight, unfortunately. Jen has a migraine. Jen will not be joining us. She was kind of sick as we were out trying to hook up the trailer and all that, which didn't make that any fun either. So she's decided to head off to bed. So everybody cry a little for Jen. Take a drink of your adult beverage. Pour some on the curb for Jen. She'll be back next Tuesday. All right. Maddie with the fatty. I recognize that name. Thank you so much for the follow.
It's one of the best names in the business. 12-year aged iced tea for Jen.
12-year aged iced tea for Jen. I'm drinking water because, you know, I'm that guy. We'll pretend it's something stouter than water, but I had my monthly drinking allotment on Halloween, and that was my one stiff drink, my vodka, what do we call it? We called it a Gilbert Donkey because we were trying to make Moscow mules, but we didn't have the copper cup, the limes, or the right kind of stuff. So it was cheap raspberry vodka and like ginger beer. So there you go.
Sound like my man Robbie B from Spiky Bits.
Dude, we were just literally so ghetto, but I poured so much vodka in that thing, I was feeling good by the end of the night.
Well, I mean, it's no Zima and a Jolly Rancher candy at the bottom.
Zima and a do they still make Zima?
If they do, Rob Bear owns all.
Let's just say no, and Rob Bear owns the stock in all of it, huh? He's a Zima boy. Throw it up for Rob. Spiky Bits Rob and his Zimas. Welcome everybody. Death and Knockin', what's going on? Joe Darkblade, what's going on? Drago, Absent, the Pophis. Welcome everybody to Friday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sykes again. Good to see you guys here. I am just kind of winding down, so forgive me. I'm usually a little more hype. I'm winding down a little bit from going to get in the trailer, nearly cutting my finger off, eating some dinner. Been a rough day. Rough first world problems going on here. We got some good stuff tonight, though. Kenny was painting. I saw him painting Branch Witch. We are not going to be painting tonight. We have we're going to review what we did paint during the week, so that you guys can see what I do if you're new here to the channel. But you might wonder, we have a big block of wood, so we have got big wood for you tonight. And along with this block of wood, along with this block of wood, we are going to be working on beginner tutorials for building armatures for sculpting. So adding a little twist into our miniature fandom and wonderful world of hobby, I'm going to show you how to kick off on your own journey towards making your own bust / miniature / whatever the hell you want. We're going to make a bizarre creature on stream during the course of our Friday tutorials through November and possibly even into December, depending on how long it takes us. And tonight's focus is, of course, working from ground zero and working with various materials to build up an armature to get us the base fundamental shape and make sure that clay can adhere to it and prepped properly so that we can get going. And if we get time during the night, we'll start throwing some clay at it, so on and so forth. So it should be a lot of fun if you've ever had any inkling towards building your own miniatures, or if you've just been curious as to how it happens before it reaches your tabletop in plastic. We're going to be working a little bit bigger scale, so it's easier for everybody to see what's going on. So I'll probably be working in, say, 75 millimeter, so a monstrous creature style size. But beyond that, all the techniques that I'll show you, I will relate them down to 28 to 30 millimeter as well. And then on ongoing submissions on Fridays, we're going to work with everything from just green stuff converting on a model you may already have. We might even work some plastic art in there, just some various hobby materials outside of just the traditional, plastic mini and what do you do with it. So we're going to be doing some fun stuff on Fridays from here on out probably through the
Why don't you donate $5
Musefi coming in hot with $10. Thank you, sir. Hype it up in the chat for Musefi. You can type !hype if you are not a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, just pick whatever you want. Just pick whatever emotes you want. You can pick Kenny's emotes. You can pick my emotes. You can pick Mike's emotes. You can pick anybody's emotes, but hype it up. Hype it up for that donation.
Donation received from Musefi.
That's Spikey Bits TV. He's here for pie? We were just telling you, everybody, that you were here for the Zima, Rob. What's going on, Rob? Star Sunders, what's going on? Yori, what's going on? Nakas, Big Roz, still one more name. JP Gray.
Those are all the OG. Those are the old schoolers.
Lorgar. Dude, we have the best community. It doesn't matter where we travel around in the blue community, and even outside the blue community in this little figurines world of ours. It's always the same faces. It's always a pleasure to find your friends. Sit down, chat. If you just found us tonight during Kenny's stream, feel free to make yourself comfortable because we carry on the same cool vibe here. We're all friends. You're welcome to post up your stuff over at the slowfusegaming.com community website, the WIP page. Were you doing show and tell today? Kenny?
Was I? Of course.
Oh,
every day, all day.
Does a bear poop in the woods?
Of course.
That's so 1990s Zima. He says you own stock in the company. Kenny says you own stock, so I'm just going with what I know, what I hear. Actually, rumor. I'm all about following rumor. I didn't drink none of that.
I didn't drink none of that buster ass Zima. I drank that Smirnoff Ice.
Smirnoff Ice. That's another one of those weird concoctions too, man.
There was the malt beverage scene back.
And then it was into like Bud Light Lime, and there's always something out there that's like.
Oh, I definitely drank my share of Bud Light Limes.
I'm all about just like some Night Train, followed by like a quick dose of over-the-counter prescription cough medicine.
Yeah. No,
I'm all about that. I'm all about ghetto drunk. Let's get ghetto drunk.
Little cooking sherry,
little cooking sherry. I ain't above a little cooking sherry. It takes a lot of cooking sherry, by the way. Just saying. Don't ask me how I know this, but a little cooking sherry does not go a long way. It might if you're flavoring something in a pan. It does not go a long way if you're trying to get sick. Just saying.
Nope.
I'm not a drinker, but this I know. Got some good stories about that. All right, man. We're going to get at it.
Yeah, let me jump in this chat. I'm going to hype you up. Thanks for having me, brother.
Do that thing. Thank you, sir. Glad you had a good stream. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. Let's get started making some stuffs. What do you think? First off, on Fridays, we always like to go through, again, say welcome to everybody old and new. We love you. And by old, I don't mean well, it's not an ageism thing. It's just some of you guys are old, so that's good. I am too. We're all friends here. During the course of the week, what do? We started off our week working on doing some OSL on some of our Kingdom Death commission that we've got working on. So for those of you that were not here through the beginning of the week and the end of last week, we started her last week and we worked up skin tones, color selection towards working on this greenish gold lighting effect that we've got going on. So what we did is kind of in a tutorial sense teach everybody how you go from a gray miniature to a primed, pre-shaded, highlighted, and then, you know, painted and OSL'd mini. And she's not quite done, but she's getting very, very close. I've got to tone some of the OSL down on our reflective light down on the bottom, but overall, really, really happy with the way she's turning out. We've got to highlight some of our metal back up, like the mask and things like that. But showed everybody how you can use glazing techniques at various stages during the course of building up a model to get a really cool dramatic lighting effect. So we did a lot of work on her this week. Tons and tons of fun. Like that. Mimnor, thank you. Brat cat. What? What type of clay are we going to part with? 2-part epoxy, polymer clay. Got lost in the hype. We're going to be doing polymer clay. We are going to show you how 2-part epoxy fits into doing polymer clay sculpts. On small work where you're going to be building a miniature from ground zero, I prefer not to use 2-part epoxy putties. The reason being the dry time tends to make it a little less flexible unless you really know what you're doing. Sometimes if you're working at 28 millimeters and let's say you already have a torso of a space marine, you're just going to green stuff some arms or a face or something like that on, then you can get away with just pure green stuff because the work time is okay for singular details. Build a head, then move into building an arm, then do this. When we're building a full armature sculpt all at the same time, it's better to use a standard polymer so that you can work with it over a long period of time. You can put it down, you can come back to it. We don't have to worry about making all the parts separate. We can start, you know, work on an arm, we'll get tired of an arm, work on a leg, do whatever you want. So I'll be working on, but I'll show you how 2-part epoxy also play a part in that for sure. Right. Ice in the UK is lemonade. Big Raza. Yeah. You guys had Iron Brew. The first time I went to the UK, well, not the first time I went to the UK, but the first time I went to the UK and paid any attention to drinking. Yori Castodon! Thank you so much, Yori, coming in hot with the 20 bucks. Thank you, sir. Hype it up for Yori. Getting it going. I do need to do some house cleaning before we start. All these donations go towards our giveaway process here, which is called Critical Mass. You can see it right up above my head. Critical Mass, there's always something listed next to that. Whatever's listed is what the current giveaway target is. In this case, it is a Winsor Newton Series 7 brush set. This time around, it's 5 brushes of the Series 7 line. It is a number 1, a number 2, a number 4, a 0, and a 000, I believe. I don't think I did a 00. I don't remember. There might be 6. I don't remember. It's 5 or 6 Winsor Newton Series 7 brushes. I'll have to dig it out. It's $100+ value for you guys, and what happens is that as soon as the donation target, in this case $150, is met, as soon as we get $150 in, then we give out a ton of Winsor Newton brushes. So we've got 2 full sets of those to give away. So if you've been wanting to up your brush game, help your paint game, get into straightness, this would be a good opportunity for you to do so. When we get to that point, we either auction them or raffle them, depending on how I feel. We kind of change it up just to keep you guys on your toes. Last night we auctioned off the full Prospero box set and all the various sprues, and the night before that we gave away Prospero entirely, like a full box set of Prospero.
Somebody likes us.
So, Ding, welcome. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, guys. Crid, what's going on? Studio 77. Liquitex Glaze Medium doesn't work well for minis. Not without some work. Well, you'd have to show me which one you're using. Is it the super thick one that you're using that never dries? Iron Brew is the drink of the gods. I liked it. I didn't like the blue. I liked the orange, the one that tasted kind of like cream soda. Anyway, moving along. What else did we work on? We did a bunch of. Yesterday. We worked on a little bit of our Gore Chosen. We are doing the same Gore Chosen kit that Kenny used. We've taken a little bit different approach. Cleo, thank you so much for the follow. We are doing a little bit different approach with R4 and going through and doing tutorials on like various methods of working up skin. On this particular guy, we were working on how to do metallic red armor. again with glazes and doing silver pre-shades. So he's in a kind of a midway state. We just dropped some skin tones on him and worked up the glow on the inside of the corn symbol on his helmet. So I've got a little bit more work to do. I have not been working as hard to get mine finished, but right after Kenny gives his away on the 15th, that following Friday is my target to give away ours. So we'll have a full set of gore chosen plus the game given away over here as well. Should be bitching.
Somebody likes
I don't remember what else we did. Got a little bit of work done on these Dreamer crew, Malifaux. Darkness, thank you so much for the follow. I've been working on this today off screen, working up my leathers and stuff for the Dreamer crew. We did some tutorials on these guys showing how you could use inks. Again, I try to use a broad variation of painting techniques for you guys so that it never really matters where you're at in your kind of painting progression. If you're just starting, if you've been painting for 10 years, we try to throw something out there that'll help you get to that next step for everybody. We all learn on a day-to-day basis, and so I try to help people from the beginning to, there really is no end to this, right? Because we're always learning, we're always finding new techniques and things to do. So on these guys, what we did is show everybody how you can work up with the same style of pre-shade, pre-highlighting that I do with an airbrush most of the time, and doing it with brushes. Forgive me, I haven't matted these guys down with a matte varnish yet, but you can see how just working it up with a brush and doing dark grays, and whites, we get really good transitions on the skin. Once we matte this down, it'll give a really good a foundation for all of the highlights and everything. And then all of the leathers and cloth and woods and all the other pieces on them we're doing normal. That'll give it kind of a different otherworldly feel to the skin on all these demons, because the Dream Crew's got all these little dudes with tons of detail and really cool otherworldly skins and tones and things like that. So showing how you inks to achieve. This guy was matted down, but this guy was all done in ink as well. So, and all these guys are freaking ridiculously tiny. So again, but all of these were done with ink. So all I would do is highlight them up with various gray tones, doing it basically like a black and white model, and then paint with ink to get the ink to fill in all the color values. And then you can just go back if you don't like it, you find it too bright, too dark in places, you can go back and work it with whites and grays to get it where you need it, and then hit it with ink again. So super simple method. So we try to do all sorts of cool stuff here. Put these guys up and get on with what we're here for tonight. Got way too many miniatures up on the half-done shelf here. This is out of control. Some need to get done. Like, literally get done. Flipia, what's going on? Darkness Nom. IF Brew and Southern Comfort. What? Iron Brew and Southern Comfort? What? What? Yeah, Studio 77. They make. I guess when we were talking yesterday, I wasn't taking into consideration the fact that Liquitex makes a couple of different glazing mediums. They make a thick-bodied for the heavy-bodied paints, and then they make a more liquid glaze medium that comes in more of a deal like the Vallejo, or at least I used to. Again, it's been forever since I've used anything other than Vallejo on that. Speaking of crew, you ever get mine from when I won my first raffle? They are here, Yori. That's just that they are on the back burner. Well, not the back burner, but they are in slot for getting painted as the date comes up. There's probably still coming up on about a month out for those. But yeah, they are here for sure. You ordered the hired swords. They are right there. And that's a good crew. I don't know if they perform very well, but it's a good crew. It's fun. A lot of cool models in that one. Gloss is the devil. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Genuine, happy Saturday to you. It isn't Saturday, though. It's Friday, man. Stop trying to come at us from the future. Good, Studio. Southern Comfort is nuts. All right, so what we're going to be doing today, big block of wood. I have big block of wood for you, baby. Anything you want. Anything you want. All right, so the first thing to do whenever you're going to be working in the world of sculpting is to make sure you have a good base for your sculpt. And I have various unsundry good bases for sculpting that I use. So cork is a fantastic method to do it. You can go on to, I do mine through a seller on Amazon, and I forget, he's in Boston, Massachusetts, and I don't remember what, like the cork guy or something, I don't remember. But he sells cork fairly inexpensively. You can get, I think, in threes, these 20, I think these are number 22s or 24s. Cork has a number, and the number relates to a diameter, and I don't remember what they are. But I think these are 22s or 24s on these corks. They're made for just big jugs or jars or people that do wine or whatever the hell people do. So anyway, you can get corks of various sizes. This is, I think, a 30 or a 31, right? So this is a good one for a more of a, you know, a large workup if I was doing like a 32 mil or something like that. But I mean, like I've done on my, the one that we were working on last, this sculpt is a 75 mil sculpt, and I've done it on the small cork. So, well, the smaller of the two, the 22 or 24 cork. So, just depending on how you want to sculpt. With this guy, I wanted to be able to rest him in my hand like this and really work with the tools so that I could, you know, focus on support and get a good grip and get in for small detail and things. So, you know, but you can use whatever kind of plinth or base that you would like. The larger and sturdier, the better as you get going in bigger works. And I would suggest as you start out, don't try to sculpt on like a wine cork, you know, because you're going to need that basis of foundation for your work. Because as you begin, and even as me sculpting, sometimes I get into a situation where I really want to apply a lot of pressure. And depending on how you mount, we'll go through all of that. A small base won't really work for you well all the time. So anyway, corks, always a good thing. Again, Amazon.com I found is the best place for cork. Although you might have a supplier where you're at. Don't know. Matt, what's going on? The Huff, what's going on? Richter Scale, what's going on? Do I make my own plinths? I definitely can. I sold my lathe, though, and I had a metalworking lathe, so I didn't have really good access. A buddy of mine had a wood lathe, and so I would turn plinths on a wood lathe if I wanted, like, round plinths or detail work or things like that. But I definitely can. I don't right now. I could route out, you know, I could take a piece like this, like off of a 4x4 and sand it down and use a router and, you know, create shapes with it, but I couldn't do anything hyper detailed without a lathe, right? A lot of those guys do the big work with a lathe, but you can create your own plinths by, I mean, you could shave an inch off of this, and then you could route it with an edge, and then take another piece, another smaller piece, and inset it onto that. I mean, you can glue them together, drill them, nail them, whatever you want, create your own. They're not very hard to do. Usually the hardest part about making a plinth for people is the staining, so that it doesn't look like, you know, it was made in your garage when you were 5. Getting a smooth finish, being able to stain and then polyurethane and wet sand and re-polyurethane and all of that till you get a real gloss finish is the hardest part for most people who work with wood. You could obviously craft your own resin plinths and whatever you want. There's enough people out there selling like resin plinths at like 60 millimeter range, 60 to like the 40 to 60, maybe 70 millimeter range for normal, you know, heroic style characters that you can buy for like anywhere from like $5 to $8, I think, maybe $10. So I would suggest just googling resin flint, and if you're looking for one. Oh, Chris, what's going on, man? Iron Brew and Whiskey, the Flying Scotsman. Holy balls, man. Commander Kino, your connection is crappy. Maybe try turning down from a source. Maybe turn down the resolution. Although you say you have no sound, so you can't hear me tell you that. Oops. You're exhausted? Me too, man. I was just out working. Alright, so let's go over some of the materials. Obviously, you need clay. And we will be working, like I said, with a variation of materials. And I'm very bad since I just got in. I didn't pull this out. We're going to be working with Super Sculpty Firm. We're going to be working with Epoxy Sculpt. Ugh. 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 Right. And stuff. Yeah, so epoxy, 2-part epoxy sculpt is a must for locking in your armature just so you get stability. I'll show you how that works as we move along. Super Sculpty Firm is what I choose to use as a polymer clay when I'm working up miniatures. It is a oven cured clay, so I just use gray. You can, I think there's like a fleshy color and there's a white, and I don't remember if there's a brown. There might be a brown as well. But Super Sculpty Firm is just, you know, it's literally just a firm clay, right? So it works as you get it warm, it becomes a little bit more pliable and workable. So, but it's good stuff. So that's the main focus that we will have. Obviously, like I said, a base. We're going to build on this big chunk of wood here, and then armature wire. and various shapes and sizes of wires and what have you we will use to build this thing and lock it in. As a matter of fact, I'm missing one size. Give me just a second, guys. Drago, I have got an idea, and we'll run it past you guys. We kind of tossed around some ideas for sculpting something that would be cool and relevant to the stream. So I kind of started drawing up this kind of shady snail character, this shady bomb snail dude who's kind of human-esque in his overall shape, kind of frumpy belly, slug tail, smoking a cigar, snail eyes, shell on his back. Didn't figure out what I want to do with the arms. I think I want the legs to be shorter, kind of non-human length, like maybe knee length. Do some really weird, dwarf leg kind of cartoony character stuff, and so I don't know. I'm thinking that's kind of what I'm going to go for.
Why don't you donate $5 to the
Thinking that's
cause?
what Memnor.
Make you feel better.
Thank you so much. Coming in hot with the $5, driving us closer towards that giveaway. Thank you, sir. Hype it up for Memnor in there. Yeah, Grumpy, so I don't know, this was just kind of a rough that I was doing just to get an idea of just a character in my head. This is, obviously, I don't know that this is anything that'll turn up. Like I said, we'll do some sketching on it real quick before we actually start building the armature. But it is a good point. It's part of the material process is that not only do we need armature wire, for something the size that we're doing, we will probably use the heavy gauge wire for the bulk of the body. So you're going to want something like this. I can't remember I don't know that this even has a gauge, but it's like 3/16 maybe now, or 3 mil.
You're not slow.
This is 3 mil. This is 3 mil. So you're not slow, you're special. I'm short but special, damn it. Thanks for that, I think. This is 3 mil, so fairly stiff. This is good for just giving you the rigid support that you need. You could use floral wire or whatever. I tend to not want to use coated wire for my armatures when I'm using Super Sculpey because you bake it, and the coated wire, I don't know, I never liked the idea of sticking it in the oven, depending on what the coating is. And then this is, I think, 1.5 millimeters, about half the size of the other. We'll use this for hands, feet, appendage, end of appendage stuff, making our own slinky, it appears. And then various craft wire. You can get this stuff. I order this stuff through Amazon. Again, I'm a huge Amazon supporter. My local craft store doesn't always have the kind of stuff you want or need. So you can get a spool like this. I think this is probably 30, 40, 50 feet of wire. This one's not. This is probably only 20 feet of the thicker stuff because it comes in this double clam section thing, and I think it's like $3, right? Each of these is probably like $3, so it doesn't cost you a lot. These I just went and picked up at Hobby Lobby to replenish a while back, and these are like $4, so you're going to spend a lot more there than you would at Amazon. Something like this, you'd probably get double the amount for $3.99. This is 40, right? Which is still nothing. I mean, it'll take you a while to go through 40 feet. But German style wire, if you're looking at craft wire, it's just copper at a medium hardness. So it's what you want. It's still pliable. It bends easy. You can wrap it around. You'll be able to do whatever you want to with it, but it doesn't shear very quickly. So it still has enough hardness in it to be able to wrap and pull, bend, and not break immediately. I also use bronze wire from time to time. I'll use bronze. And the bronze you can get in very thicknesses as well for fairly cheap. The bronze is very hard, but it also has a different break. We'll just say at a break point. It's a shear strength, but if you bend it too much, right, I can bend this 3 or 4 times here and actually break it off. So while the bronze is nice and hard and retains its memory to the shape you bend it at amazingly, if you know that you're going to be reposing, if you're going to be trying to wrap an area, bronze is not what you want. Use copper. Copper is a softer wire. It's more pliable for things like wrapping. That term will be more valuable to you as we move along and actually building the armature tonight. Yeah, dirty, right? But what'd you say? A good alternative heavy gauge wire you can use in a pinch if you can't find heavy armor is aluminum electric fencing wire. Yeah, definitely. This stuff's aluminum. The big key to wiring, like I said, if you're going out, if you want to build an armature, if you want to just play around and see if something's going to work, I suggest going to like your hardware store, your hobby store. At the hardware store, if they've got it on a spool, take it and just bend it a couple times. Take whatever wire you're doing and bend it at like a 180 degrees over on itself, and see how many times you can do that before it shears. Right? Like this copper is like electrical wire almost, and it will last quite a good time. Right? So if I'm bending it at 180 degrees, time and time again, it's there. So probably 8 or 9 times that I can bend it before it shears, and that's what you want. Okay, because if you're playing with your armature that much, you're doing it wrong. You don't really want to be reposing at that drastic of a bend amount. So, but that's just a feel you'll get that will work through. So German style, just copper, and I work in 22 and 24 gauge. I generally use these simply for wrapping, which is giving yourself a good basis for clay to adhere to the armature, and to kind of make the armature more rigid. All right, so I'll go through all those steps as well. The epoxy sculpt we'll talk about. That's again to secure your armature, a good base, a drill. You're going to want some various hand tools. You're going to want clippers for sure, side clippers, which you should already have most of this for your hobby stuff. If you're working on larger armatures, you might want to get a set of more hardware-oriented clippers like I use. These are not flat side clippers. They've got an angle to them. They're angled dikes. And these miniature dikes will cut just about anything and won't give you the same indention on the blade. They don't go dull the same way. It's made out of harder steel than any of our fairly crappy hobby ones that cost a fucking fortune, right? So even though these are straight, and they're great for hobbying because when you cut things off the sprue, a straight cut like this doesn't have any sort of bevel to it, so you cut and you get a straight flat cut on the end. This one you can see has a bevel on the teeth, so it's going to give you that V shape on whatever you cut. The problem is the flat hobby ones always tend to divot, right? So you're either having to resharpen them with a file or just toss them away. So I would suggest not using these, and just use your get a good set of small miniature. You can get from your local hardware store probably for $3 or $5 or something like that. These that'll last you, like Huskies, that'll last you forever. And then a small pair of pliers. They're a definite must. If you need 2 tools, 100%, it would be these two. You need a pair of small dikes and a pair of miniature needle nose pliers. And these pliers here are going to allow you to work with the armature wire so that you can finish the ends, make it to where it doesn't poke the shit out of you, and also help you with flexing your armature and giving you a basis for some works. Right? It's really simple. It's not. It seems like a lot. It's really not a lot of stuff. A little bit of wire, a little bit of clay, a little bit of creativity, and a whole lot of patience. That's what sculpting is about. It's amazing, right? Say the same thing about painting. It's all about patience. Everybody's like, I don't have any of that shit. Where do you buy it? There's not a store around here that sells patience. Trust me, I know. I know, because I don't have much of it either. But bear with me. No dike jokes. Alright. So this is our guy. This is our dude. This is our dude. We're going to make a snail dude. Because our mascot around here is a snail. I figure what this will allow me, I didn't want to go with anything that was too particular in human form because I don't want this to turn into an anatomy class. So if we go with something where we can create the anatomy but base it on kind of a human form, then I think we're better off. One thing I try to tell people when you're just starting out sculpting is don't focus too much on anything that has specific anatomy. If you're trying to do like a true scale female, true scale male, and you're going to do bare chest or something like that, that's a lot to jump into because you're asking yourself not only to learn the specifics of sculpting in general, but anatomy. And the anatomy might be what kills you and keep you from completing what might have otherwise been a really good sculpting attempt. So what I tell people is to start up with something peculiar. Start with a creature, mold a four-legged, dog-like beast, whatever it is, something that doesn't exist in the real world, so that you don't find yourself saying, damn, I messed that up. Damn, that doesn't look like a dog. Damn, that doesn't, ugh, bleh, and getting bummed out. Because like anything, like painting, if you choose to paint something exactly like somebody else is doing, you're always going to have a way to judge your work. And until you get further along, sometimes that could be a detriment. So I would just say draw a creature. Start throwing clay on an armature. I don't know. It's good to kind of get an idea of the shape and form that you're going for. How tall is it going to be? Hunched back, so that as you're making your armature, you can create the right form. Does that make sense? You don't want to build an armature and then get halfway through and realize the legs are too long. Well, legs being too long on the armature is not a problem. You can cut them off. But legs being too short, that can be a problem because you can't easily add to an armature once you've built it. If you build it the way I'm doing, it's not really meant to alter a whole lot. You can trim things, but adding to it becomes a real pain in the ass, and you'll see why. So you want to kind of get an understanding. If you're good visually, you can just kind of understand what it is you're going to do. If you're doing it for the first time, you just want to throw an armature together, get it going, and play with it. Fantastic, that works too. All right, so I think the only thing that I would really want to pay attention to changing on this guy before we get going, so we can have kind of a litmus, is I don't want him to have human-length legs. I don't think I was working with a standard human here. And I think I would probably rather have more cartoony, stumpy body dude here, right? And maybe instead of regular feet, maybe we give him like slug snaily feet, like they have like large kind of skirted pads or something, like more circular in nature. Like that, something where we make his legs a little bit shorter so there's not as much dynamic stuff going on down here, and then kind of tie it into the tail. Slugs have that kind of skirt that runs along the ground that lets them walk. We'll assume he's kind of grown in some legs on that. Yeah, give him a little bit of muscles, like a human muscle content there, like a calf muscle and all that stuff, and then we'll just kind of make this some weird spiky toe things or something. Right. Right. Maybe we'll give him. Oh, you know what we'll do? We'll give him really long arms. That's what we'll do. We'll give him short legs and like sloth-like arms, like his knuckle. He's like a knuckle dragon snail. That's what. Yeah, that works. That works with the kind of full-on bummed-out kind of look on the face. We'll give him like these weird long ass freaking arms and kind of crazy fingers. Yeah, we'll give him like 3 fingers. I like that. You can't really tell, but yeah, what do you guys think about that? Long arms, short legs, done. Good. All right, now let's build an armature. We should I guess we should discuss sizing of different stuff, even though we don't want to get too specific on anatomy. One of the good things to understand is kind of your rule of thumb sizing for humans, human form. The human body, as we go through, the best relation to find is how many heads tall it is. You might hear people talking about that. The standard human male, 5'11", 6 foot kind of male, is generally referred to as being 8 heads tall. And each of those heads is the height of the head that you're going to make. You can use that as a good litmus for beginning all of your armatures and your scaling. Like in our case, we shorten the legs on this guy, and this is our head height, basically, like here, right? So if we call this one head, right? So that's one head in length. Then we want to kind of, in our picture here, you can just measure and say, okay, well, one head is 3/4 of an inch here. So every 3/4 of an inch and see what we get. Look at that. We're roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads tall on this guy, right? And then what you want to do is kind of like on a normal human scale, just as a point of reference again, head, neck, torso, right? Waist, thighs, calves, shins, feet. Right? So if you're drawing just a standard human, you're going to have one, you're going to start here. This is going to be one head to the midline of the shin, to the feet. That's 1. Then to the knee, to the midline is 2. To the mid-thigh is 3. To the waistline, center line of the waist here is 4. 5. To the stomach, chest line 6. Bottom of the neck 7. And then the head itself is 8. Right? So that's how that's divided. All right. Now, for width, basically your nipple line that follows in here, depending upon male or female and how you're doing your dynamics. Distance between the nipples is usually 1 head as well, right? To give you a width. And then depending on how you're doing the shoulder bulk, you can call shoulder to shoulder sometimes is 2 heads. Right? Makes sense? And then you just kind of develop your proportions off of this, knowing that, you know, between the nipples can be your waist on a male can be 1 head, but on a female you're going to wind up with probably wider hips, depending on how you're doing the dynamics of it. Maybe not that wide, right? But this gives you kind of a standard way to look at it. And if your standard human is going to be 8 heads tall, then that gives you an idea of, okay, I'm making something shorter. You still want to keep in mind this kind of dynamic, that the height to the shin versus the knee versus the thigh versus the waist versus, you know, your belly line and your nipple line and all of that needs to be in this head size relation. So unless you're doing a weird creature that has an oversized head and then a shortened body, you know, you can use this to manipulate kind of how you build your armature, right? Make sense? Make some sense. Bomb Snail J. How he lights the SIG, we gave him some arms. We gave him very long arms. He just has to, they go way out and then come back in, right? To light the stove. All right? All right, so that's what we're going to do. So let's start building an armature. We're going to use the big stuff. And, zoinks. Let's zoom out a little bit. Pull off some more of this. All right. And every good armature starts, in my opinion, one of 2 ways. And actually, I should probably just tell you one. I probably shouldn't give you a whole lot of variation. But when we build armatures, the best way to think of your armatures is as a series of U-shapes. Okay? So you can imagine a U of metal and another U of metal. This. Okay, and this is how we're going to start our armatures off. And this is the way I start most of mine. On occasion, I use a different style, but we're going to pretend like this is all I do because I don't want to confuse you. This will work for everything you want to do, okay, pretty much. Unless 4-legged creatures are going to be a little bit different, but they're just going to be more series of this in general, okay? But for humanoid creatures, bipedal, doesn't matter how many arms they got, this is a great place to start. We're going to wind up utilizing this loop here as kind of the waist area. So this U will need to be a little bit longer, again, just to achieve your head height and all that stuff. And then on this one, you'll elongate it for your arm length. Okay, so if we wind up with a shoulder here, we'll want to have this wire be as long as our arms will be. So for the one that we're building right now, we're going to do something like this. So his arms can be pretty long. All right, so this is all going to be one continuous piece of wire that then comes in and builds into this U and then comes back out to be more length on the other side. And always go long with your upper armature for the arms and for the legs because of your mounting and because you can always trim back. You can't add to very easily. Right? We're going to start with these 2 U's first. Everybody get it? You can see kind of our humanoid shape here just made out of 2 U's. So let's do that. Let's think in terms of this thing wants to be about... let's call it a 75 mil shape, and we'll see where we get. Right? I'm going to do fairly short legs, but I'm going to drill out kind of long. I'm going to start by just bending a U shape here, and then I'm going to give it a quick measure. This is going to be way too much for the bottom, so we'll probably use this for the top. This is 150, so yeah, that'll work for the top. I'm going to kind of squeeze it in. Do a quick cut. So we've got 1 U that we will use for the upper body. That. Measure out another good 150 total lower body. Right, we'll just pick a center point on this. We want to kind of work it to where they're equidistant from one another, sorta, kinda. Right, so that'll be our lower body with our squatty legs. Refer back to our picture of El Dudoramo here. Right, so if we were to think in terms of how tall do we even draw this guy? Do we get lucky and actually draw him about the height we want? That's about 100 mil actually. That's a little tall, but we could sort of get away with that maybe. Maybe. That's about right. If we were to bust over the shoulders, say here, for our arms, just as a start, we're not worried about shape necessarily, right? Yeah, that gives us plenty to work with, actually. All right, you can see where we're going. Now what we have to do is along this, I need to get that bump out of there. You can just kind of work it around however you need. All right, now we want them to overlap a little bit, about like so. Yeah, about like yay, maybe. That works. What we're going to need is a little bit of zip kicker and some super glue. Set these up. Back. Don't spill on me. Not what I wanted. Hey, Hood's Gate, what's going on, man? What's the matter, Ferris? Ugh? Red Baron, what's going on? Alright, we are going to take a little bit of super glue, a little bit on here, just at the spots where we're going to bisect this frame. Alright, just going to let it. Now that I've already found that this thing is. That should set up pretty quick. Alright. I don't mind using zip kicker for this. I generally don't use quick set for super glue when I'm working with models, but when you're doing an armature, sometimes it just helps to get everything set up the way you want it. Oh, and that didn't even work. Drat. Drat. Are you kidding me? Come on now. Come on now. That ain't the way to do it. That happens to you. Cut off your super glue real quick. That. Apply some new stuff. Probably putting way too much super glue on here. We'll douse it on there. So. You know what? I already know I'm going to want to do this differently if this isn't going to hold. Go off another strand here. Redo my legs. And cut the legs a little bit longer, give me more to play with here. I know right away I'm going to need more bonding surface because you're going to have to start tying these two U's together. And in order to make that work, I need to have more vertical space to tie them in. That's why I went and made those longer. And the boring part of let some super glue dry. Red Baron, we gave away yesterday and the day before. We had Prospero 2 nights in a row, and we closed out of both of them. So the first one was the complete set of Burning of Prospero got given away night before last, and then last night we busted up a set and gave away all the individual sprues to 8 different winners. Lots of fun. Lots of fun, good times, good times. This doesn't seem to want to actually hold at all. What is going on? May just have to overload this real quick in the zip kicker. Which I'm going to do. My armature wire doesn't seem to want to stick to me. So it was one of those things where you don't want to use a whole lot, and then every now and then you have to use a whole lot. That was a little bit. Which I'm not going to hit it with zip kicker because the zip kicker last time made it fall apart instantaneously. I'll let it sit. Apply some pressure and let that. Shoot the catapult. Yeah, pistol. That's not the way this works, man. Chicago Bears. You give away a big batch of AdMech? Is that what you're looking for? You guys are begging now? We gave away some Skitari not too long back. Tonight's is Winsor Newton brushes. Darkness, you hope I have nail polish remover handy? For what? Nail polish remover? What's that for? Super glue? Nah. On fingers glue? Nah. I have, every night when I go to sleep, I've got more super glue on my fingers than you can imagine. I'm used to it. I'd like to see you actually stick. Be nice. Now I've gobbed so much on there that there's no telling if this is going to work or not. I hit it with a little bit. Quick set on the sides here. Right. Alright. Now what we want to do is start showing you how to go through and tie all that in. Right? So that's where the thin stuff comes in. Alright, in this case 22 gauge copper wire. We're just going to cut off the length of this that we think is going to work. Probably enough. As you're wrapping this, you want to be pulling fairly tight. Right? The whole goal of it is to hold these two U's that we've just made together. Right? So just start on one end. And as you wrap, around both. Just pull at each half turn. Okay. Around. Keep pulling it through the U until you get to the point where they start to separate. Right? You don't want to pull one further out of shape. So this will be the last bend that we do on that leg. See how it's now where we're starting to separate from our U? Now you want to just take this. Just wrap it around itself. Now, here you don't have to worry too much about this. I'm not liking this at all. One more turn here. Now we want to start wrapping up and combining the other two. On this side. This is why you want to use the copper over the bronze or some other wire right now. You want the flexibility, the ability to do this with just a couple of fingers as you're holding everything steady. Be able to wrap this. You still get a very strong bond when you're done. Or let's do one more, just right here. And we're just going to finish this out. Going ahead and wrapping around itself up top. Here. Close that one down. This is where you need the pliers for any time you have a loose end like that. So we've got this piece here where we started. Right? You got that, and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? Take it and kind of mash it in with the pliers. So it's not a point that's going to stick you. Same thing up here. You just grab that, kind of pull it tight by rotating around the piece. It's going to stretch the copper tight and also pinch it down. All right, so now I don't have any sharp edges anywhere on this. And now my two U's are combined with super glue and a little bit of zip kicker because it was giving us a little hassle. And now that you do this, you want to do this in one piece the way that I did. You don't want to wrap these legs and then wrap these legs because then they can still slide up and down together. Technically, this could too. I probably should have gone ahead. Most times I'll go ahead and wrap it all the way around the top as well so that it can't slide, but this is enough, okay? So it's not going to wind up wanting to move on you, and that's the big key. Now, that's also where the epoxy sculpt comes into play on this, right? Is that we will go in the end of the night, once we get everything else kind of figured out, we will go in and put epoxy sculpt everywhere where we've joined these, and then overnight that'll dry and give us a good firm hold for the main body. But this will allow us to kind of pose and do what we want to do with it, right? So we've got crazy long arms, really short stumpy legs. We've got our shoulder width defined, okay, which is about, probably a head and a half of how big we're going to make his head, right? So now what we want to start doing is thinking of a pose. And sometimes this is the hardest part, trying to figure out how you want to make this guy do his thing, so to speak, right? So we've got our little dude in our picture, and I'm cool with, like, maybe, what do we want to have his arms doing? I'm cool with maybe one of them kind of being down by the side, kind of hanging like we've got it there. And then
Why don't you donate $5 to the cause and maybe
JP Gray, thank you so much, coming in hot with $10. Inching closer, inching closer. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Hype it up for JP. All right, we got to start figuring out a look for this guy. And do we want him walking? Do we want him standing still? maybe walking, and maybe one hand is up, like
donation
holding the
received from
cigar.
J387.
Do that
needs new
maybe.
brushes.
Papa needs new brushes. Maybe we could do that. Could have like one of his arms, big ass long arm here, holding his cigar, maybe. I don't know. As you're bending an armature, it's good to always hold, support, and bend from wherever you're looking to put the, like in this case, the elbow. Don't hold back here and try to bend because you're going to separate your armature. We don't have everything completed yet, so we kind of want to be a little delicate with it. So we've got our shoulder bend probably about halfway to the elbow, maybe a little less than halfway because we want to be able to do the hand. Right? So we come here, start thinking about how this might work. We also know we want him slouching a bit, right? So let's take the shoulders and bend them forward a hair. That, right? So we get kind of a slouchy shoulder stance, right? Put a hand out in front of his face here. And get we're making him walk. If the left arm is out holding a cigar, it's probably better to have the right leg moving forward. Right. Left leg back a bit. Right, so that would be our standard.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Walking. Fat Ding, welcome. Thank you for the follow. This would be kind of our standard walking pose. Now his head is going to be out and elongated. One of the reasons why this is such a great armature style is that what we will do for a head is, if you can imagine, we've got this other piece that we've bent and didn't use. Right, when we do the head and neck, right, the head and neck will come in like this, right? And I can put a small hook to hook it into the bottom of the armature here as his crotch, so to speak. Ding, ding, right? But we'll hook that into the bottom of the armature, and now we've got this, and then we tie it with a cross member for his head. Now, generally, I'm not, until we get the rest of the body figured out, hands and everything, I'm probably not going to come in and add the neck and head. We'll get to that last, right? But in the case of what we're doing here, right, coming up above the shoulder line and his head coming out, right, he's got kind of this thing going on, right? We'll need to do that before we, I guess we'll have to do it before we pick exactly where we want his hand. We might have to do this a little earlier. A? Yeah, probably so. Probably so. Yeah. Alright, well, this piece might actually work. Let's go through, and I'm going to put a little hook allied. We're going to go ahead and try to get this head on here, at least the neck part, so we can position our arms. Pliers, invaluable. This stuff is very, very difficult to bend in a small loop if you don't have pliers. Right? Put a small loop in it. We're going to go in like this, and then just kind of pop that on there if we bent that right. Like that. Right, that forms the crotch. Like so. Right, see how I bent that little hook on there, and you just want it to hook over this area here, and we will go in with a little bit of super glue on that. Let me pinch that to go on there a little bit better. Get our super glue, our wondrous super glue again. See if we can make it actually hold this time. Running low. Low. Commander Kino, Zippo. Down to 0. A lot of you guys went nuts last night. Nothing wrong with that. I want to kind of center that as best I can. Not a necessity. Work it how we'll drop some in here in this loop area. Jobbing it in there. bad on me. Too much keeping it. We're going to need to also take into account the collarbone, and we're going to do that with some thinner wire. We don't want to obviously use that thick stuff for that. It's not going to be practical. We will come in with smaller stuff. It is still a little bit stouter than our copper. This is just the smaller gauge aluminum. This is the millimeter and a half, I think. I think it's millimeter and a half this time around. Give yourself enough to work with. Go over here, we should be able to have this across, wrap around. Like this. And wrap it around that neck piece that we had. So, get the sizing done. Okay, we made just a loop in it so that we can slide it down over here. Loop, and then just below the shoulder line, this is, think of it as your collarbones, right? Want to hook that around. So, and this one, make sure that while you're moving around, you don't drag it down too low, because you really do want this to be sitting up fairly high. Get lost. Right? Like that. Basically, I made the center loop, slid it down over the neckline, wrapped it around, and then came out to the sides and did the same thing, wrapping it around here at the shoulder. Right? Just want to, again, with your pliers, pinch that close. Now. Okay. You can always tighten your bends. You just go in with the pliers and just rotate. Right? You can't be aggressive with it because it will break, but like right now, what I want to do is tighten this connection a little bit. When I squeezed it, it loosened up. So I just want to go like this and go counterclockwise with my turn, right? And that'll keep it from sliding up and down like that. Over here, you want to go and wrap with the wrap, right? So in this case, clockwise. Just pinch it clockwise. The other one, I went the wrong direction the first time and loosened it up, right? That'll keep that tight so that now it doesn't, see how it doesn't slide up and down? Right? So that'll ensure that our armature stays in the spot that we want it. Now you can kind of start to see how things are coming together. I do want to a bit though. Like that. Again, with a super glue, anywhere I do these thicker wraps, I just come in with some super glue, put a drop in there on the top and the bottom where it wraps around the armature. Both these. And again up here. We can let that dry and set up. We don't have to use the kicker, right? And so now we've got kind of a rough armature for this weird long-necked snail dude, right? We want to, again, kind of not gunk our fingers up with super glue too much. Would be nice. I'm already losing feeling. I'm losing feeling in my hand, guys. While that's setting up, we want to go back with the light copper, and we want to wrap in here across this center line so that the armature, the main armature frame here that was our leg and arm armature, we want to wrap that to this center line piece that is going to be the neck. Well, it is the neck right now, okay? Again, we'll take some of our 22 gauge, or you can take 24. I prefer on the big stuff to use the 22, but you can do whatever you can. There's no rule here. You're gonna, as you keep doing this, you'll get a feel for what wires you like in what situations. Like I said, there's not really a rule. Use what works. This wire wrap has, right now, the only thing that it's doing is holding everything together. Later on, we're going to rewrap some of this so that we get the clay adhesion factor taken care of. One of the biggest problems when you're working small like this is that you will run into situations where you have the clay slip off the armature. And that can be the most frustrating part of sculpting, right? You've spent all this time getting everything ready. You want to go in and put clay on an arm. If you were to just take this armature as it is and start building out this arm and just start wrapping clay on it, you'd hate yourself. The clay is going to fall off. As soon as you start giving it any pressure to work any detail into it, it's going to come right off the armature. So I'm going to teach you how to take care of that as well. All right, I'm going to split this in about half-ish. This piece up through. All right. Yeah, I'm not the fastest sculptor when it gets to the point of actually working the clay, because it's just not something that I do day in and day out. It's not that I get bored with it per se, but I definitely don't spend the kind. I go in big bursts, as you guys have seen with the other model that we were sculpting, right? I basically will work in bursts. That's the easiest way to put it, right? I get a lot done, and then I set it aside, and I don't touch it for months. So this one, that's why we're doing it on these Friday tutorials. It'll give one day a week where we can do something outside of painting, right? Take some time to enjoy learning about sculpting, making a cool model. Again, I've got to wrap that up, and I'm going to go with the wrap and tighten it and crimp it on here. Again.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Hey, Lilium! Welcome! Great. And then take this other sign again. Pull this tight. Wraps. Use it to tie in here on this side as well.
Hey,
Death Bite, what's going on,
likes
man?
us.
Discourager! Great name. I am the Discourager. I'm never happy with whatever it is you're doing. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. Get in here now that I've got this so small. I'll give it a little tug just to pull it tight. You can use your pliers, right? Don't pull too hard. You will break the copper, like I showed you before. While it's resilient, it ain't going to last forever. So if you get all crazy with it, you can break it. And the worst time to break it is at the end of your pull like that. All right? Now we've wrapped that a little bit. I could go ahead and like cross wrap that. See how I've got the one wrapping of the copper. Let's get this out of the way. Makes it hard for this thing to focus. All right, so I wrapped the piece around and then went this way on the armature and then this way on the armature. I could go back and double wrap it. I don't feel like I need to because we're going to wrap the bottom and we've got the collarbone. So this piece is really just to kind of steady it up in the middle. Come on, babe. How you feel? Yeah? Yeah. All right. Super glue set up a little bit. I'm gonna hit it with zip kicker now so it stops trying to glue my freaking life together here. Making a goofy looking guy. Teaching everybody how to put together an armature. Alright, so we are going to I hate the worst thing about super glue is when it glues your fingernail to your end of your finger. Cut off some more of the thin wire. And I just want to grab this crotch area that we created. Here. Get a to pull centerpiece together here. Snap it through, pull it tight, come across and through on the other side, and then wrap like that. So again, I'm pulling the centerpiece over here towards the right. Then I'm just going to come up with the rest of this and wrap it up the trunk. Here. Same thing here. Coming out of this side. Across. Through. Basically like, I don't know, iron your shoes or sewing maybe. I don't know, just like sewing. Who knows how to sew? Tell me that it's like sewing. Feels like it's like sewing. It's to sew my hockey gear, but that's been a long time. It's been a long time ago. Take it through, spin it around like this, lace it again up this middle piece. This one I left long so that I can drag it all the way up the top. I'm going to use this to tie it all together into the top portion up here as well. See where I'm going with it? Here. Back down and through. Cross on this side. Again, pulling it tight every time I get to a part where I've yanked it through. Like that. And pull tight. Round. There's no real, I mean, yeah, there's a rhyme, or the reason to the rhyme of what I'm doing right now, but you don't have to necessarily do anything super specific. What you're trying to make happen is just a good interlocking wrap so that all these pieces can't really move and float. That makes sense? Because we're going to be putting pressure on this armature as we go. Quite a bit in some cases, right? You don't want any of this, once you've got clay wrapped on it, to start breaking loose. Pull this tight pliers here, down. And so by doing what I'm doing now, I'm taking this wrap and incorporating it into many areas of the armature so that all these separate things that we've kind of wrapped together, this one long end is going to start pulling them all along the same route. Pliers and pull it tight again. And go around here. And other than making sure that you don't bulk your model up too much, if you're trying to make a skinny girl, don't bulk it up with a ton of wire wrap, right? But for the most part, this is there's no problem with having as much wrap as you want on here. Just a waste of material if you do too much, but I'm one of those that's like, as long as what it's doing is providing you with a good way to stitch your creation together so that it's not going to float. All right, now you can see, like this thing, I can now start bending arms and legs and doing all sorts of crazy positions, and my armature is now able to handle what I dish out. Okay, and it'll only get sturdier as I go in with the epoxy sculpting a little bit. Alright. Now we need to... I'm not going to wrap these any more than they already are. This is pretty solid up here. I will wrap this later and go in and tie it all in. But I want to kind of get more of a feeling of where it's all headed shape-wise. I don't know if we want to just kind of... This arm's just going to be swinging back a little bit, maybe. Got our elbows done pretty well forward. I like the slouch, right? You can see he's got a good like slouchy posture here, because remember, he's going to have a gut that comes up pretty good, right? I probably want to take this and kind of angle the whole spine of that neck area, indent that a little bit, right? So I can do the same thing here on the sides. Pull those shoulders up a little bit. We can bend them forward again. So now I start to get kind of a better S shape for the spine in here. And then I can come with his neck. Start bringing it down. Right. We can figure out legs. Want to have the hip bend here, a little bit of knee. Forward, give him a little knee. High. Always thinking in terms of your symmetry on the body, the height, and the kind of proportions that we talked about earlier, right? So we know we want this kind of head height, although we don't have a head on him right now. We can see that, you know, we just give him kind of a lazy kind of walking posture here, right? It's a snail, a walking man snail. He's looking at me like I have 8 heads. Don't think she gets it, guys. All right, baby. Hope you feel better. He is plagued with the migraines. All right. All right. If I get on our block here and I start thinking in terms of how we're gonna do him in the final pose, I don't want him his stance too wide, I don't think. All right. I want to drill a couple holes so that we can mount him. I'm going to mark these holes on here, or mark this area on here where I've got contact that I like. There. Drill a couple holes in this so we can start sticking him on there. Off to this damn wedding. What? Thank you, Kino. Yeah, she hasn't been faring too well. She got a headache late in the day, and it just has escalated ever since. Not bueno. Thanks for that, though. Where is L case? They drill bits. Yeah, right? Nerval? It's kind of like that old Bigfoot walking. I like that. I'll go with the biggest one. I think that's the right bit size. Yes? Oh, maybe yes. I've got this flex drill that I use. Good drill is always a necessity in a hobbyist's toolbox, whether you have a Dremel or whatever. I use this one. It's a Fordham TX drill that I use. I learned about it from my mom, believe it or not. She's a jewelry maker, and in the course of doing her jewelry, she ran across these Fordham drills, and they are able to do very low RPM at full torque on these motors. So it's absolutely awesome. Right. Drill a little hole. That. This drill is great. This drill literally, it has full torque at like this kind of speed. So I have a foot pedal and I can get it to rotate as slow as that. But it does that with like, you couldn't stop that with your finger, really, right? It'll still pull with full torque right through that, even at that speed. So it is very nice at taking chunks of crap out. All right. Alright, so that gives us a good place to lock him down. On the sprue, nice short comic-y legs. I'm going to have to define a little bit more knee over here, but I can do it with him in there. Somewhere around there, probably. Where I want knee. Maybe. That. Getting kind of
Hey, somebody likes us.
arching forward. Ayala Hensrud, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Hope I didn't butcher your name. Okay. Got the slouch. I don't want this arm back as much. I kind of want it just, like you said, like kind of doing the Bigfoot, right? He's got slouchy freaking shoulders, so that's going to make this arm want to naturally kind of fall forward anyway, right? Like this. And then probably want an elbow here-ish. Right. You can kind of kick it back a little bit. It's more like that, right? Kind of knuckle dragging, right? And then this hand I want holding the cigar, I think, right? The cigar. Yeah. Put it up here in front, and he'll just kind of have his cigar. We got to realize the one thing we're not seeing is the shell, right? We're going to have to create a shell, but that shell will get fabbed separate from this armature. It'll give us an opportunity to show you how to build an armature and fill with aluminum foil to give it body. So you're not just using like a big, huge brick of freaking, here, here's the camera, so get camera further away. Here. Now, that gives us kind of a feel for what we're building now. He's just kind of marching along, short legs. It already has kind of a slow and heavy look to it for a snail dude, so I'm okay with that. Yes, our snail dude has legs. Don't ask questions. Don't ask questions. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll be fine. All right. Now what we want to do is figure out hands. Right. Yeah, we want to figure out hands. The way we do hands is we got to put loops in the armature up here. Okay, so the way we want to do that is grab a thing to loop around. And I usually use a trusty paintbrush. That'll work. What we want to do, okay, is create a hand by taking the armature itself and looping it around something round. Right? You just want to create a loop in the end of the armature. Right? So we can start it on its way here. so. Back. So tight. So tight. Why are you so tight? Good God, man. Literally just was disintegrating my brush. Really? Really, dude? Let go of my brush! Let go of the damn brush! Wow, that's a shitty brush. Is my freaking dowel would be the nice thing to have. I have a metal dowel that I use here, and I don't. Anyway, we'll just rough it. Right? Good. Bingo. Piece of fine. Right. You just want a loop, and you'll see why a teardrop like this is fine. I generally try to make them more round, but for some reason it was biting into my brush too hard that time. Just going to go with it. Pull these into as close to rounds as I can get. You want to have a good amount of area in them. You don't want them to be too closed in, though. Okay, like that. Once I've made the round bit, I'll need to bend it to where it's even on the wrist again, kind of like I started doing there. Right, more like that, so that it basically comes out centered on the forearm, like that. Over here. On this one, I need to twist it as well, so I'm gonna bend it up. Grab this correctly. Twist it around. Center it up on the forearm again, like that. Because I need them to be, obviously the hand is going to be in line with the arm and not sideways. So I just twisted it 90 degrees. Back a little bit. Elbow after that twist. Arm back. Elbow area. The wrist kind of slung back like that. We kind of move the arm back as we need to. Want this wrist to kind of be flopped back as well, and we'll have the fingers kind of doing this type of thing on that hand. And this side, I'm not mad about that. If he's holding a cigar in front of his face like this, and the hand is going to be, what, sideways to the front? Yes? Question mark? Yes. I need to twist his around a little bit. So, right? All right? Yeah. Hand would be if he's holding a cigar, Clint Eastwood style, then the side of the hand is going to be towards the front of the model. Something like that. Right? Right. Good. I need to give him some fingers. Fingers are always the funnest. For fingers, you want to use a smaller gauge wire than the big stuff, generally. I mean, I guess it's up to you if you're making some crazy thing with monstrous arm width fingers. But you're going to want to be able to make them posable, so you can't use the smallest wire. Right? But you don't want them so big. You do need to make them rigid. So we're going to go back to the same wire that we use for our cross member here at the collarbone. Right? What flavor of cigar? I don't know. I'm not a cigar smoker. You guys pick. You guys pick. I don't know. I wish I had some a little bit thicker than this, but I don't think I do. I think I used it last. How many fingers is he going to have? We decide 3. So he'll have 2. He'll have 2 that are curled down, right? Because he'll be holding a cigar, so he'll have 2 fingers. He'll have these two, one, and then imagine these as being one. So I have 2 fingers and then one holding the cigar, right? So these 2, and then one with the thumb holding the cigar, right? They'll be doing the freaking Wild West cigar holding thing, right? Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. All right. Now, 3 fingers. How do we want to do the 3 fingers? 3 fingers can be done. Loop 1 finger, probably be the way to do that. Let's give it a whirl. Let's give it a whirl. I'm going to cut off too much here, I think. And then, if you were doing... Monsters are easy because generally they're 2, right? Generally you do like this. 2, right? 2 fingers. There you go. You got 2 fingers and you put it on the hand, right? Sometimes you might loop this to give yourself another loop to wrap, but generally you sit here and you put it on the hand like this and you got 2 fingers, right? So you'd have those fingers, right? But we want 3, right? And we don't want them quite so long. So we're going to do 1. We're going to come around for the 3rd like this. All right, and then we're going to bend this guy. Is that going to be long enough? That's not going to be long enough because we need... That's not long enough. Not long enough. Give me more. Damn it. Give me more. You'll waste more wire doing exactly what I just did than anything. All right. We want to figure out our finger width or length, and I think I like that. I think. Right? Yeah, I kind of like that. Go longer. You can always trim them off, but again, it's hard to build it back up, so go longer than you think you need. Yeah, like that. Want to put a U in it, just like we did before. With all of our other armature pieces, so we want to create a little bit of U. Here's 1 finger. This is pinky finger. This U goes over to his 4-finger. Right? That U then will sit on this hand, and we will tie that in like we've been tying all of our armature pieces in. Right? That U sits in there. Then we want to take this at its finger length, right? And do like this. I want to bend over 180 degrees to create my 4-finger and then come right back along the edge of that 4-finger. Now, here you would have to make a choice when you're doing your armature. If you're doing fingers like this, do you want the fingers to be thicker like this or wider like sausage fingers like this? I think I want my fingers to be like taller than I want them wide. So I'm going to go ahead and lap it back under vertically. Does that make sense? This would be the top of the finger. And so rather than wrap the wire along the side and make the finger wider, I'm going to wrap it underneath so that it makes the finger taller. Make sense? You can do whatever you want, but all right. Then we're going to match that U again. And split it in half. So there's finger number 3. All right. A little bit there. Finger back out. That is not very straight. It's okay. All right, we'll make that one just a hair longer for shits and giggles because everybody's middle finger is a little bit longer. Bingo. All right, so now we got a hand with 3 fingers. Right. We don't have a thumb yet. We'll do the thumb separate. Right. So here's the hand with 3 fingers. We can do this one up here. All right, let's bend his head out of the way a little bit first. Oh, yeah. Sorry, we haven't done much sculpting on stream, so the camera angle might be a little janky from time to time. I apologize for that. Take your pliers, bend it how you want it. All right. Right. This is the fun part that never works well for me. Gluing freaking fingers on hands never works. I'm going to take a little bit of super glue. Again, try to keep it thin if you can, but you know the drill. Doesn't stick, go crazy. Put that on there, let it set a second. All right. Let that set up for a minute before I start pulling wire through it. I probably need to, yeah, I'm gonna let it set up because our Insta Zap stuff is being really brittle right out of the gate. So I'm gonna let that super glue set for a second. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any questions? Questions? Never thought of doing U-shaped loops for armature? Yeah, definitely, man. It just gives you a good strengthening because all of these U-shaped loops give you these edges that you can combine and wrap, right? So this wrap secures all of your armature together and creates a very solid end piece, right? So everywhere that you want to go. The only thing that I don't, I mean, you even bend a U in the bottom here well, I mean, in this case, it creates a crotch, but you know, you bend a U here and then hook it on so that you can then do the neck and spine. This doesn't really relate well to a spine. You're not going to use it as the definition of a spine. It gives you the ability to kind of play around with the spinal S on a model, but a lot of that will just do out of play, right? But this gives you a very good rigid center for your model. This won't move now unless you want it to, like unless I have to bend the shoulders forward more or something like that. So I've got a good slouchy pose for the shoulders. The neck will come a little bit back, right? Although I guess maybe we don't want that. I guess maybe from here we've got slouchy shoulders and the neck kind of slouches in with it. So when we bend that back, we'll bring the neck to follow the slouch line more. All right. Let's go ahead. And while we're waiting on this one, let's go ahead and do the other hand. All right, we'll do 3 fingers over here. Norther, what's going on, man? How you feeling? The 3 fingers special, yeah, right? Ayala Hensrud, I got it all right. Yes! That never happened. Welcome to the show, man. Good to have you. All right, so let's now, again, we just have to duplicate what we just did with 3 fingers over on the other side. We want to make sure that we get the fingers the same size. Question mark. So I guess we'll start with a 4 finger since we flipped that one, right?
Hey, somebody likes us.
Do the same thing over here. Barefoot, welcome. Barefoot Junior, sorry. Right, and we'll this over. So again, remember, just pinch this tight. Try to get it right on the first time, because anytime you pinch this armature, this aluminum armature wire tight like this at 180 degrees, you run the risk of breaking it if you decide to fold it back over itself at some point. So you just want to try to get that length matched up right on the fingers. So we're trying to match this hand, 4 finger to pinky. Right, so our pinky is short, our 4 fingers long, our middle finger's the longest. That's just, you can randomize that, whatever. You don't have to make it that way. Right, but this is going to be for this hand. And so pinky will be on the inside there, and we'll go on the outside like that. Right, so we want to wrap this back around again, divide it in the halfway point so we get our middle finger. So just clip that middle finger off. And again, I was clipping them off a little bit long, but you can do whatever you want. So it gets us a little bit of a hand shape, right? We'll sculpt, not sculpt, but we'll angle the fingers and everything as we get it all wrapped, right? So got that made. I am not going to apply this to the model just yet, because we're going to have to take the model off of the block to wrap the other hand. I don't want to be knocking this off, because I guarantee it'll break off until we wrap it. Right? So now this has had a little bit of time to set up. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some of the Zap-A-Gap on here, like so. That'll help get a rigid bond on there. Now I might be able to wrap this sitting here. I'm going to go with the smaller of the wire that I have, which for me is 24 gauge, right? 24 gauge, which is 0.5 mil, maybe? Yeah, 0.5 mil. Right? So depending on where you are and where your wire sizes are, I don't know if gauge is a thing that's used all around the world. I have never really thought about that. I think it is. Anyway, it's half mil wire. This is the smallest that I work with. You could get stuff that's even thinner, that's more like, you know, fishing line and whatever. I haven't really. I guess if you're working super small at 28 millimeter, that would be good. But we're going to cut off a good length of this. Screwed up the end with my little bend earlier. All right, so we'll just cut off more than you need. You know the drill. And then we want to start out any major kinks that are in it. Feed it up through the middle here. Get it about half and half. You want to just start sewing this through the hole. Okay, so 2 kinds of wet. Nothern, thank you so much for the host, buddy. See you back and alive. I'm drinking a lot. Right. Just want to continue to wrap through. Want to give a little bit of tug on your end piece here until, right? You want to give a little bit of tug on this end piece and kind of pull them tight, right? Not too tight. You don't want to break it off of there, but you want to keep it tight enough. Right? And just keep feeding it through. Support the wire so that it doesn't lose too much of its wrap tension, so to speak. Right? If you feel like you're not getting a good enough pull on it, grab the pliers, right? Use them to leverage the wire through. So, trying to keep it on the block, easier to see. Go ahead and just keep. I'm going to take it off of here. I can't get a good enough angle to pull on it. Maybe this will be easier for you guys to tell what I'm doing anyway. Right, so I'm going to take it through here, hold the arm, grab the pliers, right, and give it a good tug. Again, just kind of pull it tight. That'll take up the slack. Once you bend it, all that slack will be taut. And keep wrapping it through the center hole of that loop we made for a hand. That's why we made a loop for a hand. Tight again. Oh. And we want to go in between the fingers. I didn't really make this piece long enough. I'm having to try to toy with this very short piece of wire now. If I say always go longer than you need, you're not doing what I'm doing right now. Pushing a piece of wire, but with your pliers you can do it. That last bit. Get it taut. Cut that off. I'm just going to push it right up in. So basically have wound one side, grabbing this side of the fingers to the loop of the hand, and now I bet you can guess what we're going to do with this side, right? Repeat as necessary. And this, we're going to be doing backwards, feeding it from the bottom to the top.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Hey! Inasetti! Welcome! Thank you for the follow. Hope I didn't butcher your name. Alright. Again, just pull it tight. Around, feed it through, pull it tight, bend it around, feed it through. Repetition is king. I'm just trying to attach the hand to the fingers at this point. Right. Each time I yank the finger, or yank the copper up through the middle like that, pull it, grab your pliers, pull it tight, then wrap it. Down. Through. Tight. Wrap it. Through again. People might be saying, Jesus, man, I'd already been sculpting. Well, you need to take this kind of time on an armature. It will pay off dividends in the end. Trust me. All right? Trust me. Because you will get so much more posability to your miniature if your armature is secure like this. I'll be able to move these fingers as I need to. I'll be able to play around with posing as we start thinking about, bulking up clay, so on and so forth. Whereas, on other miniatures, I mean, I've done this too. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm in a hurry. I want to get this armature done. I make it a little less rigid, and I always suffer in the end. Even our War Machine sculpt that we're doing is suffering a little bit of that. Some of the clay and the torso moves because I didn't bolt the torso up enough in the armature, right? Okay, so I just pinched that end down right there so that you can see where the end comes in and stops. I'm not going to get a sharp edge there. Okay. Now, let's get that middle finger moved back over. Let's get our pinky stacked the way we need it again. Okay. Get this middle finger moved over. Main finger. Right. Now for these guys, we're making a fist. Well, not really a fist, but right, he's going to be. Let's see here: hand, finger, knuckle, kind of thing. Knuckle kind of thing. Knuckle, just want that end knuckle kind of thing going on here, right? And then the hook. Because he'll be kind of holding on to his cigar with that one. Pinky. Hold under. Oh. Middle finger. Way. That gives us a good rough estimation. Probably get more knuckle, more roll on that finger for holding the cigar. That gives us kind of our holding a cigar hand. We'll play around with that. We'll be able to move these fingers and adjust them as necessary to kind of give us the separation that we need. Right? But that's kind of the general shape that I'm going for. Right? All right, killing time. Take it easy, man. See you, Yori. Sexy striker. Exactly. Exactly. All right. There we've got cigar holding hand. Right, with his fingers wrapped around. Pretty happy with that. Now we need this hand on here. Same thing. We need to get some super glue on here. Make sure that we match up pretty good to our loop first. And we closer. I'm just going to come in and pinch it together a little bit. You want to make sure you get enough surface area there to actually glue that on to what we created as our hand loop there. All right. Super glue on that. The same basic principles of armature down to heroic scale? Yes, Death. You could, you can get away, depends on what you're trying to do, but yes. If you're doing like 32 millimeter, all of these same standards apply. 28 millimeter, all these same standards apply. There's no reason why you have to change any. You will find it more difficult because you're working with thinner wire. Your armature, your main armature, will probably be the 1.5 millimeter armature that you make, right? There is another, well, all right, while that dries, I'll show you guys something. I said I wasn't going to do this, but let's do it, because why not, right? There's another way to do armatures, and for heroic scale, and by heroic scale he means, if you guys aren't familiar with that term, are 28 millimeter to 30 millimeter, 32 millimeter kind of miniatures. We refer to as heroic scale. You know, all of our Space Marine dudes, right? So if you're gonna create a Space Marine like this, okay, the to use method still works. So you have the opportunity to go through and do exactly what I've done here, right? I could do this. Obviously, my width is going to change. You have to take your proportions into account. Okay? So you're not going to have the same, you know, breadth across the model. You're still going to want to have your total width about one head of separation here. Okay? So in this case, you can take a look at like that if you just want to get, you know, super crazy, right? So one head height in between your loop is a good estimation. Okay? And then you can take it and do like this, right? And that gives you the beginnings of your heroic scale miniature. Actually, bring it down a little bit more, right? So you just want to take a standard miniature and assume that you're still going to pin it, right? And that would be about right there, right? Well, not really. Probably more like that, right? And then that. Slide it up because you don't want to have this go deeper than the crotch. And so maybe bring it up like so. Okay, and you could do it and still wrap that together and still get a good basis, create the arms, do everything the same way that we're doing at this scale. So yes, you definitely can. It's a little more cumbersome to wrap everything at this. You're not going to want to do the hands the same way that I did because obviously you're not going to be able to get every individual finger. For the hand on this, you might just take the end of the armature and create a loop and then do everything out of the clay itself. Getting individual fingers like that is damn near impossible. So generally what you'll do is you'll start with a lump of clay and sculpt a hand out of it, and have fingers closed, stuff like that. You know, most of the things are like fists. Fists are easy because it's just a ball of clay and then you sculpt your finger details into it. On larger models like this where we have an individual finger that's, you know, going to be more than a ½ an inch long, you need to have that supported because the clay itself won't support as you extend it out over that range. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason why I didn't make these long enough to create arms, really. But there's no reason why this armature the same armature method doesn't work for you at heroic scale. What I was going to say is that there's another way to do this. Okay, you can take and bend these into L's with your leg length. I'm just going to do this real rough. Okay. You can bend these into L's with your leg length, and then if you have a method to hold with your pliers, let's say, right, hold both of those together. That's not going to hold very well because one of them's not tension in there, right? You can hold those and then twist them together, right? And you can twist these together until for about half of that distance that you have left, okay? So I can take it and here just real quick. It's just yeah. All right, so you twist this together. So, right, then you got this. Bend these down, give yourself some width for your hips, like that, right? And then you've got arms coming off of that. Okay, got maybe shoulder, arm, shoulder, arm. I didn't plan this out size-wise very well, so that proportion is off. But there you've got an armature as well. Okay, this is the way that I built the armature for the War Machine sculpt, even though he's 75 millimeters tall. What this doesn't do and what you have to be careful of is this gives you no bulk in the center to stabilize for what you're doing. But at heroic scale, you're a lot better off. You're going to wrap this again, and we haven't gotten to that part, but you're going to wrap this for a different reason. You would wrap the center so that your clay, it has an adhesion point that is a lot better, and you wrap your arms and everything to give that same clay adhesion. But you can definitely do like this. And that's a very quick way to get an armature. You just then go and drop some super glue in here, let that set. I would recommend going in with a epoxy sculpting material like green stuff. I use green stuff for it a lot. It sets up real quick. Epoxy sculpt that we'll use tonight sets up real quick. So you can then go in, and once you've super glued this and it's all set, put epoxy sculpt, you know, and build up a little bit of a form for your torso. Give it a little bit of breadth across the shoulders, you know, basically create a V in here, right? And then a little bit across in the hip area so that these legs are all stabilized, so that basically you've just got a lump of epoxy sculpt in here in the torso range, and then you've got these metal arms and legs coming out of it, right? And from that, you can literally make, bingo, Space Marine, right? You can create whatever miniature you want. Let that epoxy sculpt dry or green stuff dry, and then you've got some bulk. The only thing is you might want to add. Well, see, now I have to go down a whole nother range. So the thing I was trying to avoid is when you do this, you have to do a lot of different things with your epoxy sculpt. So if it's a thing that you want to try, you can definitely shoot me a message and I'll help walk you down through that. But I don't want to break off from what we're doing here with our armature that we're building up here. So, Chef, what's going on? Isn't heroic 9 heads instead of 7 for leg length? It seems like it. It seems like it. Yeah, Major Dodo. I don't know. Everybody calls 28mm God scale, but they're talking about non-GW stuff. Sustainiac, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, you can. Kev Rob is right. You can buy from, I think maybe even Reaper Miniatures has armatures, and they're called. God, why is it escaping me right now? Starts with an M, not mannequins, but it's like mannequin. Basically, you're buying just a 28mm armature that's already like a human, and it already has some muscle detail built up. Those are okay. They're very difficult for posing. They pose a couple times and then the arm breaks off, so be careful. I like making my own, but you can use those. Maquettes, that's what they're called, maquettes. Right, so you can buy 28mm maquettes. You can Google that. Google 28mm maquette, right? And you'll, I didn't finish this little, see how when I wrap this around from the collarbone, I didn't finish that. That's still sitting up there pokey style. But just to avoid any further damage to myself, I'm just going to come in here and squeeze that in a little bit. Make sure that edge is squeezed in really good against the body here. So now it's much smoother, as you can see. I just went in and bent that down so that sharp tab. All right. So these guys are set up. Let's wrap this other hand. So again, we want to cut off a length of our 24 gauge copper wire, much longer than we need this time, so I don't have to jack around with little bitty bits of it sticking out. All right. Again, we just kind of want to go in here and divide this about half. So pull one tight. Boop. Oh, it broke loose, didn't it? Only thing holding my hand together right now is this wire. Damn it. Damn it. I need to set that again. I didn't hit it with the quick set, did I? Let's see if I can get the. Well, no, I'm not going to be able to, am I? I'm not going to be able to hold the hand full unless I get very strong lips here for some reason.
Somebody likes us.
I'm not going to be able to do this correctly. Dipperwinks, what's up? And I also got this pumpkin wrong, so that's actually a good idea that broke off. Didn't put this on the pinky on the right side. The pinky is our folded over finger here. I need to have that on the outside of the. Reglue this real quick. I don't know why this aluminum arm. I bet this aluminum is dirty. That's probably the reason. Probably got oil on it. A lot of the metals, when you buy them, will be like oiled from the factory because it's how it comes out after the extrusion. So you got to be careful. And I didn't clean this aluminum at all. So probably a step I needed to have added in there. I didn't have the pinky on the outside, I had it on the inside. Thinking incorrectly. Get it some zip kicker and have that stay long enough for us to get a wrap around it. If you guys have problems spilling paint, like some of you have told me you do, always put the top back on your zip kicker. It is a tall, clumsy bottle, and you will hate yourself if you knock it over. I think it's probably the most toxic thing in our house. To get wrap around this. Kink in this wire that's driving me absolutely nuts. Tight. Again, I'm just threading the needle on this. Solid copper wire, Nosferatu, it is. Indeed, this is 24 gauge or 0.5 millimeter that I'm using here. Very small. You want to get enough wraps to give you a solid connection between the armature and the hand, or fingers in this case, the hand part of the armature and the fingers, right? And I'm gonna loop it through, tie it in just to the armature again. So this time it's just wrapping itself to the hand part of the armature. There's no finger to grab onto here. Right. You want to lift this middle finger up and out of the way some. You don't want to really re-wrapping it. Both actually can be on the other side. Great. I'm going to bring this over. This one, because it's kind of falling off, super glue is not holding as well as I wish. Now I'm going to secure the middle finger back down. All this does is, like I said, tie the whole model together. Right? It gives you the ability to trust your armature through your build, because you're going to be rough with this armature as you go through and start applying clay. Heck, before you start applying clay, as we go and repose, maybe you want to play with your pose for a while and see if you're not happy with the way something looks. This will allow you to be confident every time you move the armature that you're not going to have a part fall off. Especially as you're, consider that a sculpt this size is still considered working small, right? This is a miniature sculpt, even though it's still, pretty good size. For us, this is monstrous creature size, 75, 80 millimeter. I don't know if he's actually, yeah, he's probably over 75 millimeters tall, but right. I'm okay with that, so I'm going to clip that now. I'll just cut that off. Take my pliers here and just wrap them around. Can't get a good angle on it. There we go. Just go with the direction of the twist and crimp it down again to where you just don't have a sharp piece hanging out there. All right. So I've ended that one side. So on that one, I went ahead and wrapped this side, through the bottom, and around to the other side. Now on this one, we're going to start, right, by wrapping here. And wrapping this other side that we didn't get a whole lot on. I'm going to go through, pull this tight after that first wrap. All right. On this one, I'm going to pull it tight each time. Basically, you're just, again, just threading the needle, wrapping over what we did that came from the other side, pulling it tight. Make sure that after you pull it tight, you bend it around. All right. And I just kinked my wire a little bit. Want to get around to the front, wrap down below in the hand section here. One more wrap here on these fingers. Tight like that. And then bring it home by, I'll lift that middle finger. Bring it home by, again, wrapping it to the armature by itself here. So it basically is completely encapsulated now, right? That hand's not going anywhere. All right. Pull it tight, cut it, move it with the pliers, bingo. All right, move our middle finger down and over. Need our middle finger to take actually where it's supposed to go on the hand. It's in the freaking middle. Who would have thunk? So.
Hey, somebody likes us.
All right. Sarah's lame. No, she's not. Welcome. Thanks for the follow. All right, and so now we have the hand wrapped to the armature. All right, so that's not going anywhere, just like we had this one wrapped to the armature, right? Just like the body's all wrapped together, right? Now you don't have to put super glue on this copper. The copper is very, very strong as it is. These hands aren't really going to go anywhere. They may be a little loose. Nosferatu, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome again. So you can, there might be a little bit of play, but remember, we're going to go back before we end tonight, and we're going to put epoxy sculpt on these just to solidify all these wrapped areas. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that before we end the stream tonight. Okay, so that gives us a good wrap and definition on this hand, and then we can start playing with fingers, right? So we can say, okay, well, we want to have a little bit of loop back here, create some knuckles. Here's a knuckle close to the hand. Here's a knuckle, second knuckle, and then maybe kind of a third knuckle out here. All right, but now I can start being kind of, well, I don't want to say manhandle, but I can start actually maneuvering things the way I want them. All right.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Fin Fang Boom, great name. Welcome. How you guys doing on a Friday? Knuckle there, and a final knuckle here at the tip. All right, so we just want the hand to just kind of trail behind, just a kind of a slow gait, kind of waving in the background kind of a thing, right? We're holding a cigar with our front hand, right? This epoxy sculpt stuff, that help? No, it doesn't help at all. It's like, maybe that helps us see. But because all of our stuff is, let me see if we can get this. Do like this. How about that? How about that? All right. See if we can make that work. All right. Now we've got this guy. If you're just joining us, what we're doing, our channel mascot is a snail, and so for all of our Fridays in November, what we're going to do is be working on various tutorials showing you how to sculpt a miniature, working small, and by miniature, this guy's actually pretty big. But if we were to measure, I'm sure we're over 100 millimeters high right now, right? Yeah, we're about, well, at the end of the day, we'll be about 110 millimeters, right? So we wound up being a pretty big mini. All right, so much more than heroic scale. But what we're doing is working on, obviously tonight, building an armature. How is this abominable creation going? It's going well, man. It's going well. Sarah's like, oh, you just get to know you? I don't know. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. All right. We've got a little bit of a gait going on here. He's got a little bit of a walk, kind of a lunging walk. He's sort of a mutant snail, very long arms, very short legs. We'll do the shell separate with our bomb snail wick coming out of the shell. Cigar, which we're having him hold in his hand, hence the curved forefinger, which will be holding it. We'll work up thumbs. Or not. Maybe we won't. Maybe he just has 3 fingers. And he just has a tight grip. I kind of like the whole just 3 fingers. And he'll be like tentacle fingery things, and he'll just be having that front one wrapped all the way around the cigar rather than thumbs. I don't like to think of snails with opposable thumbs. That gives me nightmares. Right? And so this gets us going here. We would change because we don't like where his neck is right now. We wanted his neck to kind of have that same kind of, out of the way of the hand, and that same slouch to it coming off of the spine, right? We'll pull it down to kind of match the slouch of the shoulders, more like that. And then let's move this arm out of the way so we can kind of position the head the way we're thinking. That's a big thing. I mean, by securing this armature the way that we have, we can kind of manhandle it, right? I can move stuff out of the way. I can kind of play with it as long as it's secure without worrying about it busting loose. The only thing that right now is really able to bust loose is the super glue on this this cross section here, which is still doing its job. It's not going to compress, and right now what it's doing is it's keeping the shoulders the right width away from the neck. It's acting as your collarbone, basically. Okay, and we will wrap that. I just need to kind of get this all situated before we do. All right, so we've got, how much further up from the shoulders do we want? I guess kind of top of the shoulder is right here. We kind of want it to just kind of crest about a half a shoulder's height above that, huh? Not quite as low as we got it. Raise that up a bit and bring it over like that, maybe. Better. About like that, because if our shoulder, once it's bulked up with clay, is here, yeah, it's probably more like it right there. All right. And then want to kind of have that immediately go down ish, down ish. Yaw, 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 yaw. And then how far out? We've got, if you look at it here, right, you've kind of got, the head doesn't come out very far, and I like that. I like the short neck. So it's kind of like right as it gets out to here, where we would have a head. Right? Bend that back around and give that kind of our localization for where our head is going to be. By again doing another loop. And for this loop, I'm just working along the length, giving it a good pull every time we come around, moving it so I can get another circle built up. Right? Am I happy with kind of the way that is? I think that's pretty good. What do you guys think? That gives us a pretty good. I like this. I like the armature more. Tried to shake it to give it a. I kind of like the armature more because it gives us more of a arc to the head as opposed to just coming out and straight. Like on my drawing kind of the head still went up. I like this one just because it kind of gives it more of a lazy feel as it arcs, and the head will be kind of headed down because he still has stock eyes that come up, and we'll make those here in a second. Right, so I like that. That worked a little bit better. Do that. Let's clip that off right there. Right. And underneath. Bingo. Now we have our head defined. Right. We're going to be able to move our arm with the cigar back up in front of the face. That. You can imagine him taking a step forward. He's got his non on his cigar, right? So he's got his head. Maybe the cigar is not in the mouth. Maybe it's just resting right on the edge of the lip. We can kind of change that relation of the hand to the front of the face as we start working it up. Obviously, we'll move the arm out away as we build up the face. We can build up. I generally work from legs up. It allows me to go through multiple baking procedures. A lot of times I will like to bake a miniature as I sculpt it. Multiple times when I'm working with Super Sculpting. So like this guy, our sexy commander here, he's been baked on the bottom and the torso, right? So he's already hardened. The arms are still pliable, so we can still work the clay on the arms. That's where I left this guy last, was working on the armor for his arms. But everything else, torso-wise, lower torso and all of that has been pretty well defined and baked off. I can still change musculature on it by going in and adding more layers of clay when I need to. But it allows me to kind of get a firm base, work the legs up, get them nice and done, sculpted. And then, like, say to, the nice thing about a form like this is I could sculpt to, like, the waist level here, bake it, have the legs hardened. That way I can manipulate the sculpt a little bit better. I get pretty forceful with my sculpts, so if I don't do that, sometimes I'll be working high and I'll grab the damn thing and hold it like this and I'll pull away and I'll have, messed up some of my details. So it's not always the way I work, but sometimes. We'll see how it goes as we go through the course, I think. His shell should be exploding. Cool guys don't look at explosions. This whole project will give you nightmares? What are you talking about, man? You like baking while miniaturing also? Ben5143, we are making it's basically just a tutorial series that we're working through on Friday nights. We always on the channel do tutorial Fridays. During the course of the week, we paint stuff. I am that guy what paints things. So if you found us on the internet, generally we are a miniature painting stream, so I do a lot of tutorials on how to throw paint on the miniatures quite a bit of the time. We've been working on some Kingdom Death commissions. We do Warhammer. We do pretty much anything. I'm a full-time commission artist, so a lot of what I do. This one is actually my own personal stuff, so which is pretty amazing. I never paint stuff for myself, but generally I'm working on painting miniatures, whether it be like Warhammer. This is actually Warhammer 30K, science fiction miniature game, tabletop war game. These are called Space Marines, if you don't know. I'm doing a commission for one of our viewers, doing some Malifaux, which is another tabletop war game, but it was using this as a way to teach people how to do coloring with inks. All of his skin tones are done, just made up black and white, and then inked over with green ink, which is why they're kind of glossy right now. But it gives the skin a totally different feel than, say, the texture of the leather that I've painted, his leather tunic. I was painting today off stream. But so we do a lot of painting, and what we're doing now is on Fridays through the course of November and probably all through December leading up to Christmas, we're going to be sculpting this guy. Okay? And creating a miniature that we will then paint. And this miniature is going to be a snail. A mutated snail dude. Our channel logo is the bomb snail. So he's going to have a shell that is kind of a bomb with a wick burning down. He's got a cigar in his hand, which you should always have burning things around explosive. Long kind of knuckle dragger caveman arms and short legs is what we've been doing. So that's where we got dimensions for our armature. And today's lesson has been, let's build an armature. How do you build an armature if you plan to sculpt pretty much anything? If you were going to make a sculpt of, say, a phone booth, if you wanted to make terrain, if you were going to do any of it out of clay and you wanted to make like resin models at some point in time, you can work them up with plastic art if you have a lot of right angles. But let's say you just wanted to model some
Hey,
piece
somebody
of terrain,
likes us.
rocks, things like that. You can actually build armatures for all of that as well. Ben, thank you so much for the follow. Good to have you here. All right, so you can do armatures for anything. Ours, obviously, doing a humanoid creature. We've started in with showing how to build an armature. It's a very good show here of just out of 2 loops. My armatures are generally start out with 2 U shapes, and then the width is based on the dimensions of the character that you're building. This is kind of a slothy creature, so we went a little bit wide on our dimensions across the center torso. So his spread is a little bit wide. He's going to have kind of a slug snail tail coming off the end. Maybe when we do the paint and stuff, we'll have it be like dripping clear resin onto the ground, leaving a slug trail. It's going to be pretty cool, I think. I've got some neat ideas rolling around in my head. Obviously, this doesn't take into account the shell. We will build the shell in a separate armature later on. You would want to sculpt the main body and then any secondary things separate. The shell would be separate, and if you bought this model, it would glue on to the main body. It wouldn't come as a single piece. All right, so right now we're just trying to think of the pose, and I kind of like it. We've got slouchy shoulders and a good kind of just general lazy walk going on. All right, he's holding a cigar is the idea. So he's got his hand up in front of his face with one of his little doohickey fingers wrapped around a cigar. And then we just got the neck and the head kind of shape figured out, how the neck was going to come across the back of the armor. And I'm very happy with it. And now we can kind of work to secure the last piece, which is this one. And I'm just going to wrap a little bit of copper around this collarbone area to just shore it up a little bit. Doesn't really need it. It's not going to float too much. The only way that I can really wrap it is to kind of come in and wrap each of these individual parts to the side that it's already on. So you may or may not want to do that if you're going through this this same process that you're in. It's kind of up to you. I'm a fan of overkill when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if I can do anything to make it more secure, even if it's only more secure in my head, then I go for it. At the same time, very hard. Yeah, I mean, I like to. It's neat to be able to work with something and create on your own, right? I mean, a lot of times the models that we paint are made by other people, and so every now and then I like to have something that I've made on my own, whether it's a conversion, you know, it could be anything really. We take models and change them around and do what we call converting. You'll take a model kit and take certain parts of it and change them and maybe mix them with other model kit parts, things like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an X wrap here. All right. So I started and I wrapped around. Let's zoom in again. So I wrapped around and then around and then down up through here and then back up. So around, kind of like you lace your shoes. Up, down, around, or up, down, around, up, through. I don't remember. How do they tell us to? I don't. You know what? You lace your shoes long enough, and you forget how you learn to lace your shoes. Same thing. I'm just going to go up and around, down and around, and crisscross this, as opposed to the way we've been wrapping, which has been fairly linear on everything else. Okay. Rhyme cake. Welcome. All right. So down and then up again and around this side. Pulling tight every time. Around and back onto actual collarbone piece for the last little bit. And I'll pull that tight. Each time I'm pulling it tight, but I'm not horsing it too bad. Right? You don't want to break the wire, and you don't want to pull it so tight that it puts tension on the model, right? And wants to like pull the shoulders in or anything. Want to grab this piece and pull it through. Finish it off by one last bend, and grabbing it, and just kind of mashing it to the model. We don't have that point sticking up, right? Oh, well, you guys can see that, right? But it's just a crisscross wrapping here, so that now this is kind of held in place from being able to slide vertically by both pressure on top and bottom. Right? Lemon Zone, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Okay. And we still have this piece, so might as well not waste it. We'll just drag it over to the other shoulder. Just wrap it around this collarbone. This isn't going to be enough for what we really want out of it, but no reason to cut it off when we got it left. Use this quick. Wrap it on here. Okay. Need another little piece so we can wrap this other side. And crisscrossing and going to the lower side, tie it together, round back up, pull it tight again, wrap it back across the collarbone.
Dirty, dirty little thing.
Dirty, dirty. What's dirty? What's dirty? We're not being dirty tonight. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? All right. Cut that. Finish it off. First wrap on this side. Just for overkill's sake, take this and actually wrap it up around the neck here real quick. Down, and once again finish it off. And anytime, like I said, you're finishing off, just squeeze it and twist along the surface in the direction of the wrap. Bingo, now you've pressed it down against the armature there. It's not going to cut you or poke you or stick out of the clay. Right, bingo. Now our armature is secured. Every piece of it that we needed secured on there is secured. Right, bingo. Now we've got the makings of our mutant snail dude. This guy is now fully posable. We can whip arms around. I say whip arms around. You don't want to break your armature, so you still want to be, anytime I'm going to like move this elbow, I don't want to hold the model here and try to move the elbow, because, you know, if I put pressure here and force, it's going to fly up here on the shoulder. So you always want to, if you're going to move the elbow, grab just above the bend that you want to make, support the bend, right? So I've grabbed the upper arm, grab the lower arm, support here at the elbow, and then you can bend. Because then you don't lose, number one, you don't lose your elbow spot, right? And ours has gotten a little out of form anyway here. So I want to give it some form back, do a tight bend on it here. Then reverse bend the forearm there. See, now I have my elbow back. It was a little bit too loose of a curve. You want to watch that, because if it gets too loose as you apply clay, you're going to have to put more clay on it to make it a sharp bend. if it's a big loose kind of curve like that. Right? This is our smoking hand. Right? That gives us our bend there. We've got our slouchy shoulders, are still good. Might want to even bend them forward a little bit more. But now, because everything's super tight, our collarbone doesn't move as we do that. Slouch his shoulders forward a little bit more. That is actually good. I don't know how to spread it out a little further. Open sides. And you can just kind of play and refine your pose. Give it a little bit of drama to it if you want. He's not really a super action figure, right? More like a snail version of Hellboy, right? He's just kind of nonplussed. Couldn't care less. He's going to have a bomb on his back. Doesn't even care. Smoking a cigar. You got to do 2 eye stalks coming up off of here. I probably want to start thinking about that and giving a way to get those eye stalks on. If I wrap the eye stalks, that might also give us... I usually don't think about the head right now as I'm building the main armature. I mean, I think about it as far as placement, but I don't usually think about it as far as form. But I might want to build out some breadth to the head, because we have it looped here. Normally my loop would go side to side, is the way to say that, probably, side to side. Normally I would make a loop on the armature that, as opposed to, like, ours right now follows inside the snail's form, right, and then gives us this loop, right, is the loop that we've created on the armature, right? So that's what we have here. So that loop is inside the head. Okay? But we also need a loop normally that I would do if you had a human form. Where did it go? Here. Okay, so if this was our human form and the neck came up, you would normally do the loop like this. Right? So that you get the side-to-side breadth of the head stability, so that as you're putting clay on this, you don't squish the head narrower and narrower. You'll know because you'll start revealing the armature. Okay, so I need to have that as well. So as we have this, I've got to be able to put a little width on it. And I could do that, and we might do that with just a ball of aluminum foil, actually. To be honest with you, that might be the best way. Is to just do a little bit of aluminum foil in there and wrap the aluminum foil, perhaps, and then do our tentacles, question mark? Or not our tentacles, our eyes, question mark? That might be the best way, as I'm sitting here looking at it. Maybe. Let me go get a little bit of aluminum foil. I'll be right back. I shall be right back. All right. Okay. A little bit of aluminum foil. I'm just going to tear some off, and I don't know how much I need. So I'm going to tear off more than I need. Foil, when you're working with it, you want to typically condense it as much as you humanly can, right? Make it as packed as possible. It will always crumple more. I don't know how it does it. It's magical. Right? Then take our foil, shove it in head/face area here, just like that. The foil gives you the ability to create some volume and not worry about it burning off as you bake your clay. Put it down here, compress a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical, but you don't want it to be wildly out of shape, right? That gives us a good working form that fills out our face. So we would be able to put clay on that and work it in out. You got to be careful when you do this. Don't put too much. Notice how that's pretty small compared to what we would be looking for a head that is going to be quite a bit larger around than that. Because you want to be able to work the clay. You want to be able to give impressions for the mouth. You want to be able to work back into it. So you just don't want to have to load that whole area up with clay if you can avoid it. All right? I think that works? Question mark? Let's see if we can make some eye stalks, and that'll help us figure the rest of this out. Sometimes on a particular shape, you just have to kind of wing it. Figure out what you're doing for the actual shape that you're looking for as you go. These will be the eye stalks, and if I play this right, I can also hold the aluminum foil in here with this. Right? If I do this right. Might be asking much, but I'm thinking if I can just get this kind of work this one, this long enough. I don't need. Stalks correctly? Let's look at our reference. I think so. Our reference, we kind of want the eye stalks coming off just as the head crests or starts to crest. They would just kind of follow out. We don't care what a snail really looks like. We're not talking about snail anatomy here. I think that'll work. I think if we were to get them to just bend forward now. Right. I think that works. And now we got to figure out how can we use the copper to then tie all this in. When you say question mark, absent of like, can we do this? Question mark. Question mark. I think of the guy from Despicable Me, where he's like light bulb. Light bulb. I used to say that all the time after watching that with my nephew, until I realized that was probably a little too childish. Fuse, you can't be being childish. You gotta be an adult, man. You have to be an adult. You can't be a kid anymore. You're too old for that shit. That's what they keep telling me. I think they lie. I think. And what I'm gonna try to do is thread this. Ah! Balls. 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 So, I'm gonna pull this through. Everybody hold your breath. I do this. Anchor this back here. Okay, so I have pulled the copper through my little eye stalk thingamajigger that I've made here. Right, but now I need to wrap around it Get back through it. The question mark. Ben, does she stream as well? She's usually on stream with us. And she has got a migraine tonight. She gets hit with migraines every now and then. Usually, you know, every couple of months, she'll get one that's kind of debilitating. And so, unfortunately, she couldn't join us. Friday unfortunately, is usually the night where she's with us from the beginning to the end of stream, too. She's a lot of fun. And unfortunately, tonight, she can't be here. So you get Cardboard Jen. That's Cardboard Jen over there. Sometimes you get Hand Jen, which is when I draw lips on my hand and stick it over on her camera. And we talk to you that way. I make Jen noises. Hi, everybody. Tonight, we get none of that. Tonight, you got Cardboard Jen. It's not a bad thing, but we wish we had real Jen. I am trying hard here. Figure out, I'm just randomly shoving copper through stuff. I think I'm gonna have to, I got it. I'm gonna wrap through the copper a couple of times here on the bottom and see if that'll give me enough pull, then yank it back forward. Hold it still. This is probably like the worst way to do this in the world, but whatever. But whatever. I never said I was smart. So you guys. Just right back through again. Sorry if I've completely lost you as I'm doing this. I'm doing a good job of, I think, tutorializing this. Now, this has gotten a little hectic. Hopefully we can show you at the end what I've done to get this to hold on. But I feel like building this kind of eye stalk armature separately and then tying it into the main one is the right idea. I just don't know if I'm implementing it correctly right now. I feel like it's going to work. Feeling has got to count for something, right? Got to count for something. Jen's actually the one everybody here loves. They just tolerate me. They like her a lot. I know it. I'm used to it by now. Alright, see that's still not real tight, but it's getting there. What I've done is I started with hanging the copper over the top here. You can see this loose end here still, right? So I ran the copper through here. Then I went through and grabbed onto the armature, the eye stalk armature, and then had looped it back around, and then went through up front, looped it back around. Now I've got it around this kind of front nose area. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around here. The side. See that? Thread it through. Pull it tight. But then take that round here to the back again. This is pretty messy, but we'll put it that way. Now sometimes I won't even do the head on the main armature. Sometimes you might want to do such a detailed face that you want to do it separately and then attach it later. Nothing wrong with that. I think I want to then... There. Super strong now. Super strong. Make very good. Mr. Fuse do very good, snail head. Oh, very good. It's very, very good. Alright. Pulling this and finish it off the back side of this armature like this. You'll be able to force it to. Ooh, hello. Ah. Balls. Bolts. Dig itself into the damn aluminum foil. Too small. It's too small. I'm just gonna call it a day. Cut it and finish it right here. Okay. Go. Now I can kind of thread the eyes the way I want to. Eye stalks, that is. Right? And now it's pretty tight, right? I can't really move that. Yank on the eye stalks. And that head, while being very Frankensteined in there, right? I don't know if you can tell how badly that's Frankenstein some days. Right? It's pretty jury rigged, right? But I've got the armature goes through the head, so the armature itself can't like fall off because I wrapped it through the actual head loop, and it now holds in position that aluminum foil. Right, the foil ball doesn't move either and can't really come out. It moves a little bit, it jiggles around in there a little bit, but it'll give us the stability that we need to just kind of fill that area. Right, so there we go. Now we've got. He looks like a bug. Right, looks like a bug with some bug antennas. Doesn't he? Alright, now on these guys, I need to cut them the same length first off. Finder's turn. That's the same length. Okay. Think you're getting a bit ahead of yourself in this section, but Finissetti, it's ahead of my. I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'll be here all week trying to fish. That works. That works pretty good. Those are still long for eye stalks. What we're going to want to do, again, like we did on the hands, is make some little loops. Loops. I can start being the Bob Ross again. Because it's like, now's the time where we make the loop with these. Alright, so I'm just going to twist a little circle there. Same thing over here. By grabbing the end of the armature there and folding it over itself. That might be too small? Question mark? No, it's open it back up a little bit. That's better. Alright, so I just fold it around like that. Then I want to center it. Alright, so I want to bend it down a little bit. Try to center it back on the stock. Alright, now we've got a spot for his eyes. Eye stalks. And that loop will just give us the ability to have the clay kind of, I'll be able to wrap that loop with the small wire again and give us a place for the clay to grab is the goal there. Alright, so we've got stalks with eyes, eye spots. We can manipulate that armature to position those the way we want, so that's good. It's very good. Got a smoking hand. Put back up in front of the face. He looks like some sort of weird steampunk robot thing now. Let's go ahead and finish this off real quick. This wrap. Let's take this if we can. Split. It's gonna make that's not. Damn it. Hoping that was just gonna be long enough to make it to the breastbone area, and we could tie it into the breastbone. Would have helped. A little bit more tension on that head, but no big deal. We'll just end it there. Alright, so just wrap that down the neck, allow it to walk it off. Walk it off. What else do we need to add here before we do some epoxy sculpt and call it a night? I think we probably ought to give a tail armature, right? Yes, probably. I want a little slug tail, but I don't know where. Well, you just make it. Screw it. Let's do it. Let's do it, man. We know no fear. Fearless is our nature. We can make it happen. You can see it. Kevrov didn't like your joke. All right. All right. So this is what we're doing. Here's old boy. Right. Here's old lazy snail dude, and here's old lazy snail dude as an armature. What do you think? Minus shell, of course. Like I said, the shell armature comes later, so you got to have a little bit of imagination. But what do you think? I'm digging it. I'm digging it. You got the slouchy look. You got the crazy long arms, which I don't know why a snail has arms in the first place. You got the hand holding the cigar, right? You got this hand with the one first finger coming out to hold the cigar, the other two in a fist. Right? The face with a little head with a little bit of definition. I showed you how to fill gaps with aluminum foil to give it some body, so you're not wasting a lot of clay up in that head area. Right? The snail's really coming out of his shell, but yeah. So see, take a quick sketch and then start working it up. And you, like I said, the basis is, I think one of the main principles is don't be afraid to make everything too long so that you have more to play with, so that you can work the shape in the way you want to, change it up. You know, we didn't really have much definition of motion on the original drawing. This is just kind of a, you know, here's the thing. Right, this is kind of the character that I was dreaming up today, and now as we make it real, we need to give it some form, give it some definition, give it some actual shape. You know, maybe this arm needs to be back more, as it would be as he's walking, right? So we give it, and we can go through, because we've done all this work on our, right? We don't want to lose the slouch of the shoulder. We still want that forward, so we want to hold here and bend from that point so that the shoulder still stays pushed forward. But now we get that forearm and upper arm swinging the way we want to, the wrist a little bit lazy back. That gives us a little bit more motion. Right? That gives him a better walk rather than kind of a lunge. That shows some better progress in motion. Right? But I think overall we've got the height right, the way we wanted it to draw. I can see the shell where it'll be. We just have to now start, as we build up clay, we will build these forms. We'll build the slouch chest, the gut. Could you build the gut up with, say, more tinfoil? You could. You could start fleshing out the shapes a little bit more with tinfoil if you wanted to. I'm going to use this as a basis to show you more in terms of how we wrap the whole model, and get a better sense of allowing the clay to stick that way. If you wrap this whole thing with tinfoil, that is good if you're using like maybe Monster Putty, or some things where you're not it has a little bit more sticky proportion to it than our Super Sculpey. Super Sculpey has literally like no stickiness at all, so it would not adhere to this arm. So we still have work to do. We still have to wrap this whole armature. But what I tend to like to do first is go in and with a little bit of epoxy sculpt and sculpt in the areas around the places where we've joined our armature. And this guy's actually pretty good. I don't know that I need to do that. I mean, I can bend the crap out of this guy. So we built a really sturdy armature here. I don't know that I have to do that right now, but I'd like to show you before we close up for the night. Doing the wrap we got to do wrap on fingers, and we got to do wrap on the whole rest of the model. So what I'll do is kind of wrap an arm to give you a feel for what we're going to do. We won't do the whole model that way. Since we've got a good form on the sculpt itself or on the armature itself, you can see everything that we're going for. We'll make this tail real quick, and then I'll wrap one arm to give you an idea of what we're doing. And or actually, you already probably know. Right? What brand of clay, Vic? It's Super Sculpting. Yep, Super Sculpting. We've got it over here. I use, for models of this size that I might just do as a one-off, we'll bake it, paint it, and somebody will win it. We'll raffle it off on stream. One of the things we're thinking about doing with this is going through and creating a cast of it and doing multiples. Maybe we do a limited run of like 10 and raffle them off on stream so that everybody can have one and paint them for themselves. Maybe we paint one on stream and raffle off 9. I don't know. We'll see. I've got to find somebody that's willing to put aside some time and work with us from a casting perspective in order to do that, because this would be a 3D 2-part cast, so there'd be a lot to it. Just kind of working up what I want for the tail. I want it to be not too pointy at the end, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it with a little bit of a loop here. Because mostly we paint here. I'm a full-time commissioned miniature painter and an artist, and every now and then we just like to sculpt. A lot of the viewers were asking for us to show some sculpting methods, so that's what we're doing. All right, so on this, I think I want to bring it in from just like the center point of the thighs, like that, maybe? What do you guys think? I think that's what I want. It's just kind of right in there. We'll just tie it, we'll just tie it in like that. I think that's kind of, I don't want it to touch the ground. I want it to be a little off the ground, so we'll probably do it right about like that. What do you guys think? Well, let's do that. Let's bring it around here. Derp. Arm in the way. Arm in the way. Get out of the way. That's centered. Okay. Shove it through. Actually, don't through and then wrap it along the spine. For rigidity sake, just kind of pull it here, pull it tight like that. Same thing with this guy. Wrap him around this. This, because I don't mess myself up by building bulk here in the center, whereas if I keep wrapping this to the outside here, I might get bulk where I don't really want it, so I'm gonna pull it to the inside here on the spine. Right, we just want to finish this off. I want to again just kind of twist with the direction of the wrap. Squeeze it onto the center of the spine. Same thing on this one. Grab it, put it around back here. That chubby. All right, bend the tail back through. And do whatever we want to do now. Absent! You're using original oven baked Sculpey. Do you know if you can bake multiple times? Yes. Yes, you can. If you're going to plan on baking multiple times, don't bake at max temp, max time the first time. Understand that max temp, max time, anything beyond that tends to burn it. So what you're going to want to do is, I always forget what it is. It's like, I usually bake mine at like 125 for 15 minutes-ish. 15 or 20 minutes maybe, depending on your thickness, right? If you're baking something really small, you know, that would probably work too. It's like 100 to 125 degrees. You can do it in a toaster oven too. Like 100 degrees for like 15, 20 minutes and test that and see if that's hard enough for you. If you're doing something like this, it should be good. If you're doing something flat and narrow, it may still be brittle enough to break, so be careful. But as long as you're doing something like a humanoid form like this, I bake and then as long as you haven't done it at max temp for max time the first time around, then you can always keep putting it in the oven and just keep cycling through the next part that you build up. Put it in the oven at 100, 125 for 15, 20 minutes, and check on your temps and bake time on yours. I don't remember off the top of my head. What does Super Sculpey say on the box? I always forget. I get them all mixed up. This one is 275 for 15 minutes per quarter inch. So I take that down 275 more than in half, right? So 125, 130-ish, about half of my baking temperature for about the same time, for about 15, 20 minutes. And then I bake that, and then I pull it out, and then I keep building on that. That'll be hard enough to where you can grab it and not mess up details. And then you build up more detail, stick it in the oven, same temperature, 125, 130 degrees, 15 minutes, and keep doing it. Now you've basically baked the second one at 125 degrees for 30 minutes. See what I'm saying? And so as you keep building up and adding more, you are continually baking those past areas that you've done. So I wouldn't do it 10 times, you know. I would section it to where maybe you do like the legs and the lower torso, you know, to the hips or something. Or like what I normally do is I do legs and chest, right, up to the shoulders, and then bake that. And then I do the arms and the neck maybe and bake that. And then you can maybe work on the head when the rest of the body is done and get the head done and then bake that and then you're done, basically, you know. So I wouldn't bake more than like 2 or 3 times. That's just me though. Your mileage may vary. Can't press this a little bit. Adjust this tail some. Have it on a down angle. And bend. Out a little bit. That's actually cool. It swings to the left a little bit as he's walking. Or would it swing to the right? It would swing to the right, wouldn't it? So catch it swinging to the right a little bit. Bend it around until you're happy with it. And that'll give us kind of a cool slug tail, right, that we can build up. I'm not going to wrap that in there just yet until I see if I need to rework it or maybe give that a little bit of time to sit on my mind and see if I like that. I think that's okay. So that'll give us our slug tail area. Here. Yeah, that's what it needed. It needed to not be so thick. There we go. I can build it up with clay, you know, so that's not a big deal. Just more worried about it as far as being too broad here. I kind of want it to be, you know, I picture a slug with the main body, right? The head here, you got the head with the eye stalks, and then we have this wide kind of slug body that then narrows down at the tail and has the little fluttery skirt things around it. We'll do the kind of like outside of the thing in the belly, like it would be a slug up here on the chest with kind of wavy lines instead of normal. And then some, you know, humanoid muscle in there too is the idea. But I like this. I like coming narrow from the hips down into the tail here, and we can build that up as we need to. So I'm pretty happy with that. That works. Let's I'm going to drop a little bit of super glue on that. And here in the middle. So, a little bit out here on the outside of the lid, and that's gonna break what I do. Alright. And basically the only thing left before we can start placing clay on this guy is to give it the ability to have clay grab on it. And like I said, this arm isn't going to hold clay at all, ever. Like, you would be so frustrated. You'll mash clay around it and it'll come right off. So how do we remedy that? We go in with, I'm going to use some of my 22 gauge, a little bit of the thicker stuff.
Hey, somebody likes us.
All right. My gosh. Kaplor me. I'm going to butcher your name. Thank you for the follow. Sorry. The capitalization's throwing me off. Tell me what the right pronunciation is. I'll try not to get it wrong again, I swear. I swear. Don't spank me, Daddy. Alright, so let's cut off a big piece of our copper. Again, this is 22 gauge. Sorry, not 24. 22 gauge. Did I say 22? It's a little bit thicker than the 24. Not hugely, but enough. You've rolled out super thin, both Sculpey and Super Sculpey, and layer together, fold, and roll out again. Repeat until I get a quarter in plank, then bake. It makes a really workable layered slate for basing in terrain. Yeah, definitely. Why did you mix them both? Why did you mix both Sculpey and Super Sculpey and not just use one? Is there something that you learned that you can share with us that made that better or worse? All right, I'm going to start here, right under the armpit area. I'm going to roll this up under here real quick. Tie it off or give it a holding point. So, that. The main armature is 3 millimeter. The floor. Okay, now on this, we just want a tight wrap on the arm at about, gosh, for you Europeans, at about like 4 millimeters apart on the wrap. Right? For us in the States, about 1/8 of an inch-ish, maybe a little bit more. Darkness Nom! All right, have a good one, man. Get some sleep. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate the hanging out. Spending some Friday time with us, man. We will be working on these sculptures every Friday. We will be back to painting on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays as per normal. During November and December, we're going to just be doing these tutorials for sculpting on Fridays only. So thanks for hanging in with me. If you guys tuned in for paint, don't worry, we'll be painting on Tuesday. Alright, so notice how my dumb hand is in the way. Alright, so notice how I'm just wrapping this arm. Again, spacing a little over 1/8 of an inch apart. Need to tighten that back up to about 1/8. That. Alright, just wrapping tight. I'm putting tension. I'm doing good pull. The entire time I'm keeping tension on this wire. See how it's not loose? Alright, I'll put tension on it. The way I do that is I've got a good grip of the wire here in my fingers. And then I've got this as a tensioner. This forefinger is a tensioner. See, it's loose here. Then I tension it here with this finger. Right? Hold it, and then just pull it around. Swap between the finger and the thumb. Always keeping tension on the wire so it's tight. Work it down here onto the hand again. Double wrap this wrist. Like so, and cut. Alright, once that's cut, finish it off with your pliers, like we've been doing, and just take it, and with the direction of that wrap, just rotate it around. Bingo. Alright, now you can see how you've given yourself some area for clay to actually adhere. Okay? This isn't going to move because we kept it tight, so notice, like, I can't move those, right? I can't separate those at all. Like maybe if I really push, there you go, I can move it a little bit, right? But because that's tight on there, now the clay has a surface to stick to, because these ridges that are formed on the arm will allow the clay to not be able to slide down, slide left or right, because it's also banded, right? So it goes down like a, like a barber pole. So as you try to move it, it holds like a screw would, okay? And then eventually every part of this armature gets wrapped this way. A lot of it already is, right? Because a lot of it we wrapped prior with the securing wire. Now, depending on your armature size, you might want to go with a larger gauge than this. I don't really have a larger gauge in between where I'm at and where I would be with the tail, but you could. I could use like the same stuff that I use for the tail to wrap as well. If you were going to be bulking something out really big, like if you had really big Hulk arms, I might want to go ahead and bulk with a bigger wire. For us, they're going to be narrow arms and kind of alien in nature. So, I don't think this is going to be a big deal, right? I think we'll be fine with this. You can double wrap. You could wrap one direction, get to the end, and then wrap back if you wanted to. You might just want to test it out, see how much pressure you apply clay with, and if it's moving around still, maybe your next armature, go through and double wrap, or bi-directional. For me, normally this is enough. There we have the beginnings of Mr. Snail, our very own mascot bomb snail. And you will wrap everything. For the fingers, I'll go in with the 24 gauge, the smaller gauge stuff that we use to wrap the hand, and I will individually wrap these fingers. Let's do one real quick over here. I will start in the hand again, just to give myself a secure anchor point. Right? I'll loop around, poke it back through, and leave myself a lot. Didn't really give yourself more than enough here on the loop, the beginning spot, so that you can actually get this started. I've been saying all night, give yourself more than you need, and I'm the one. One more. There you go. Stop being an idiot, please. Just pull that tight, and then pull it down here while I'm holding it with the pliers on the back side. Right. That gives us a good start, and we'll pull loose while we're going, and then we just want to wrap this finger same way we did the arm. Right. Keeping tension applied the whole time. Here you'll keep your spacing smaller, right? But you still want to leave space between your wrap. You don't want to have it sit right up next to itself. Right? Because you've got to give a gap for clay to sit in. That's the whole point of this. Okay. On the end, I'll just take the pliers, and I will wrap around again. Tight, and again finish it off. Amp it down to the like that. Bingo. Part. Want your fingers to spread. And now, find it on camera. There you go. Now you've got a method for clay to adhere to this finger as well, just like we did on the hand. And now you'll start seeing, right, everywhere we've got the ability for clay to adhere to this armature. Normally, once you get used to this doesn't take near as long as I've been taking on the stream tonight. Usually build an armature like this in an hour or two. And the pros, the guys that do this for a living, I hear them say all the time they can build an armature like this in like 30 minutes, an hour tops. Like, okay, I wish I was good. I can't. I'm slow at everything, though, hence the name. So I finished off that tail end on the finger there. Right. There you go. I will just go back in and do the same thing, wrapping each of these individual fingers. You'll start with a piece, you'll wrap it through the center plug of that hand and around, so give it an anchor point, and then zip out that finger. Then do the next one. Right? By the time you're done, the center of this hand piece gets pretty full, right? Because we've wrapped a ton, but it's not going anywhere, right? That hand is basically, all of this is basically like one piece of metal now on this armature, right? But when you're making a maquette like this, a mannequin, whatever you want to call it, a miniature, whenever you're making something like this, it's just depending on what you decide to do with it. If it's just a one-off and you're going to bake it and paint it and put it on a shelf or give it to a friend or sell it to somebody, if you're going to sell it to somebody, I would always say that it's worth doing the armature the best that you can, because you don't want it, when it's out of your hands, you don't know how people are going to treat it. So it's always worth making an armature if you're doing this commercially. If you're doing it just for yourself, if you just want to try it the first time, you don't have to be as specific about all of your armature work as I have been on this one, as far as like getting everything nailed down perfectly. Well, I say perfect, I'm kind of scrappy with like the way we did the head was just kind of winging it. But you can play with it a little bit more and see what works for you, what you feel like, for the model that you're actually building works, and so on and so forth. But I always take the time to do a pretty sturdy armature, again, because I'm a little heavy-handed with clay. I'm not the best shaper of clay. I don't have a very light feel sometimes. And so this just makes sure that as I'm going in and I'm sculpting a knee, the armature isn't going to bend backwards. I'm not going to lose the definition of the motion or the form that I've created, right, as I want to go through and apply more pressure here and there. As I'm sitting here working on this guy on the back and molding his back, it might move a little on the board, but I'm going to be able to be secure in the fact that I can push pretty hard before I actually bend my form here, right? Because it's pretty sturdy, everything's bulked out pretty well, and I feel good about it. Now all we have to do is wrap. I've got to wrap the eye stalks. I've got to wrap the rest of the spine coming across the top of the head. Basically every square inch linearly on this mannequin will be wrapped exactly like we just did this arm and this finger, so that we get that clay adhesion, right? That'll make it stick. The Super Sculpting is not sticky. You got to give it something to cling on. Anyway, there you go. I think that's a good ending point. It's almost 10 o'clock. We've had a good run. Yeah, I like it. What do you think? What do you guys think of Mr. Snail, or Mr. Snail armature here? There you go. That's our guy from this. Our initial concept, the snail in the flesh, so to speak. Hey, Drudgens Den, what's going on, man? Yeah, let me take a look at this thing, Ricker. Just wanted to make sure everybody saw that. We can set that back so everybody can see what we started with and where we're headed, kind of a thing. Right. Oh yeah, yeah. So the sculpting that you did on the base for the rocks, is that what I'm seeing? Or did you make that whole base? Is that what you're telling me? Like, is that whole flying base the sculpting? Richter? Vanessa, thank you so much, man. Glad to see you found a home here. Appreciate it. Thanks, Absent. Absent, was I the guy experimenting with watercolor pencils, or was that? I think that was Richter. Richter scale was, yeah. Yeah, I don't like the watercolor pencil stuff. It's quick and dirty. It's kind of like using the gold Sharpies to do gold. It's I don't like it. It's hard to control. I mean, people can get good with it, but it's not the best way to do it. I mean, if you're gonna spend that, it's quick. It's quick, down and dirty, and gets you down the road. So I can't complain about that. Yeah, for those of you that are tuning in and are thinking, "What in the hell? I thought this guy painted." I do paint. We paint. We make beautiful miniatures here as well. Turn some light up on it. We're working on all sorts of stuff. So this is one of my Imperial Fist test models. One of my Assault Sergeants for my 30K Imperial Fists. We've been working on all sorts of stuff here. We've been doing Gore Chosen along with Kenny. We've got a lot of really cool models going on with Kingdom Death. This is the Twilight Knight that we painted up here on stream, working in a lot of non-metallic metals, showing you how to do a lot of really cool tricks with shading and glazing and such to get cool effects there. We've done a couple of the Kingdom Death models in that same series with some OSL lighting effects. I can show you how to do that. This girl is really, really cool. We did her as a red, obviously a red infrared style OSL. It's harder to see with such a black background. There we go. All right, so you can see that she gets a very cool, intense infrared style lighting from the blood coming out of her wrist. She's a cutter. She's an emo cutter. We did her with a series of glazes and workups to get that OSL lighting for a red. And we did a greenish yellow on the next one. We are working her up. We did this on stream last week and this week. Same kind of thing. You can see as I did the OSL on her, we worked with a very bright greenish yellow. I've still got to do some finishing on it, but it's pretty decent right now. You can see as I turn the miniature how it gets brighter and brighter and brighter, as if there was actually a light radiating out of that, but there isn't. There's no LED in this, I swear to God. Right, this is all brush painted, no airbrush other than our initial highlighting. So our pre-shade and our pre-highlight were all done with airbrush, and then everything else is done with brush and stippling and glazes. So this one is turning out fantastic. I really, really like her. The way that our lighting is coming out is great. So we do all sorts of cool stuff, showing you different methods to achieve all sorts of things. If you've got something that you'd like to see with regards to painting, always feel free to throw it out. Throw me a message on Facebook, Instagram, here, wherever, if you got something you want to see. That's how we decided to do this sculpting stuff. A lot of the guys wanted to see my methods for sculpting. So that's what we're doing. Working on armatures, and we're going to make a crazy alien snail dude. So you need to brush up on your technique, but oh. The dad jokes are real with you, man. JP Gray, check out your orange walkers. What are we talking about? Orange walkers where? You drop a link? Is it over on the whip gallery? Is that what you're trying to do? Mike, I will be sculpting every Friday through November and December until we get this guy done. And then past getting him completed, we will then be working on either one of two things. Like I said, I'll either be then painting him and doing a giveaway with him, or hopefully, if we can find somebody, or if any of you guys out there know anybody that would like to work with me to get it cast up and made in a limited run. The problem right now is everybody's so busy with all of their Kickstarters that anytime I go to a casting facility, a mold place that, I say, hey, I want to send you a miniature and I want you to cut it up, make the mold, and cast it for me, they all want to know how many hundreds I want. And unless you guys want to buy like 100 of these things, then I don't think I have the money to pay for 10 if they're like, $100 a pop. But we'll see. My wish for this when we get it done, assuming that, we don't have major problems along the way, which I don't think we will, if we get a really cool miniature made, I would really like to have this thing, cast and then sent out to you guys. You could paint it, you could win it in a raffle. Maybe we sell off a couple of them to pay for the casting, whatever it is, support the stream by giving it back to you guys. And then I think it would be fun to see how you guys interpret painting it. And plus, at the scale that it is, it could be used as a monstrous creature in your games. You could use it in a Tyranid army. You could use it in pretty much whatever. So I kept it to the scale of, like a Carnifex style scale, or a big, not quite gargantuan size, but pretty good size. But yeah, every Friday. So next Friday I'll be sculpting. I won't be doing any of it off screen until we get to maybe I might go through and wrap this armature before next Friday. So I'll finish up the techniques that I've shown you, but I won't go any further than the techniques that I show that week. Okay, so you can trust that next week when we see it, it will be all wrapped and ready to go with some clay, and we'll start applying clay next week and building up form. That'll be what next Friday is all about, how to get the form and mass where you need it. And then we'll start going from there. The following Friday, I'll be working details in, and anytime I do that, I will only in the course of that week work on completing what we start on stream with the same methods. I won't move into other techniques. Oh, on the whip gallery, JP. I can check that out real quick. I don't have a whip. Hold, please. I'll open it up. We'll take a look. Before we leave. I got to go. Go. Shoot. I can't be hanging out with you people all the time. Shoot. I got things to do. Places to go. People to see. Not really. Not really. I actually hang out. I have no friends, but you're That's like that. Look at the whip gallery. Walker. Where am I seeing JP Gray's orange walker? Oh god, you're gonna make me dig through all of the stuff from freaking Kenny's stream? Are you kidding me? Viking Teabagger and his airbrushed eye is killing me. Well, I've never airbrushed an eye. The lying liar who lies. JP, what are you making me do here? I thought you meant they were at the top. Not at the top. They're like not even halfway down. What are you doing, man? Oh, there you go. There's a mech army. Stuff. I like this stuff. And I saw this on Instagram, as a matter of fact. I saw these on the gram of Insta, or no, maybe on Facebook, right? I think you posted them on Facebook. These look really good, man. These look really good. I'm loving your fades and your coloration on your yellows or orange. I think you're doing Riza. Is this supposed to be like orange, grayish orange, or brownish orange? I like it. I like your transitions. Doing the dark color up around the top, or do you still have more to do? Because that reverse shade, I think you were asking about the other day, and it works. It can work. It draws your eye in a weird way. You look at it, and all of a sudden your brain freaks because of the way lighting it expects versus what it sees, and but it works. The contrast actually works pretty well. I dig it. I dig it. Nice. Nice. Take a look at Valkyrie's real quick. She just put a new one up here. I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of these, though. Not going to go through a whole bunch of these. Shoot. Shoot. I ain't got time for that. Blood Angels. Angry Marines. Def Company Angry Marines. Are they? Yeah. Yeah. Angry Marines. All the red. Make all, except these guys got a lot of black. Are these Flesh Terrors? Maybe? Maybe Flesh Terrors? Good stuff, gang. Good stuff, boys. I like a lot. Yeah, Death by Donut. Sometimes it is cool, like on a tank where the glow comes from the ground. It like I said, it throws your eye and your brain off real quick, but it works, right? It works. It looks like the glow is coming from the ground or something. It's pretty dark on top. Yeah. Nice. Based on a photo of your Humvee as you got it out of the desert in Cali. Oh, nice. Oh, because the dirt had colored the bottom of it, and yet you still had the color on the top. That's a unique way to interpret it. If you had a darker colored vehicle in a light colored environment, where the dirt was light, the dust was going to be light, and you drove it around, yeah, you would have, instead of our standard interpretation of like dark streaks for blown dust and everything, you'd have light streaks on a darker background. So it could definitely work with that in mind. I like that idea. That's good. That's good. Lemon Zone. When I paint, I use a lot of glazes, but not much in the way of washes. I don't use washes the way some people. I do use washes. I'll wash skin if I'm doing like quick skin workups. I'll wash them to get or shade them. And when I wash, I mean shade, which I think is what most people mean. Like you use like Agrax Earth Shade or Nuln Oil. I use Nuln Oil on just about everything I paint silver, if I'm using true metallic paints. But yeah, the only washes that I really have are Nuln, Agrax, and Reikland Flesh Shade. And then I've got a bunch of old GW ink washes I don't wash a whole lot. I prefer to blend up. I mean, I'm working on these guys. This is a good example. You know, I'm working on these guys with the doing all the leather on their tunics, right? And I'm not doing any washes or glazes on this at all. This is all just straight brush blending. So I haven't used any wash and no blend or no glaze. So you'll catch me doing all of it, all of the above. Like sometimes I'll wash if I want to do it down and dirty. I'm looking for that really dirty, grungy effect, and I might wash it with like an Agrax and then bring it back up from that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the technique, whatever technique it is that I'm looking for. But you know, like on these, I'm not doing either. You know, so it just is. Sometimes I change all the time. Right, my style is never really locked down to being any one thing. I wanted to make sure I didn't do a whole lot of glazes or washes on these models because of the way I worked up the skin tone with inks. So I'll try to balance out a model based on what all the textures on it are. So there's a rough sketchiness to the way I did the muscular workup on the highlights. You know, if you can see like the striations for muscles, more like if I was doing orcs. And then I did all that in black and white and then used the ink to give the color as opposed to a glaze. And the ink you can't control like a glaze because you can't choose your thickness. Ink is ink. So every time you put more ink on, it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. Whereas with a glaze, you can work it up and back. So I didn't want to do that same type of depth and density on the paint for the tunic. So I just blended those. So, and it gives you a good difference between this and the skin. But it just depends on the model, the specific model that I'm doing, as to what I will do on any given day. I love glazes. You know, I hate the term glazing because really it's just painting with thin paint. But it's to me, it's just the best way to control the color application and blending on the model. You can use it for everything. You know, it's just a hard technique to get down, but once you're comfortable with it, it's a technique you can use on everything. I would say yes if you're looking, because you can glaze in shadows, you can glaze highlights, you can glaze any type of color valuation that you want. You know, because this was all glazes. You know, this was all glazing done to get this highlight, right? All of that bright green is all glazed, you know, over our base colors. So that even went over our skin tones and got us this. So if you were watching that, you know, it's like glazes can do anything. I'll glaze in more shadows on her. That's what I've got to keep doing in order to finish this model, is working a little bit more shading. But it allows you to do anything. You just have to be cognizant of what it's going to do on the model if it's at a particular thickness. And once you start learning that and use it more and more, you'll find yourself thinning your paints to get effects. And that's technically what people call glazing. It's just painting. It's just painting with thinner paints. If you're painting on a canvas, you would be glazing all the time. Because if you just go in with a raw paint and go opaque in an area and paint it and then paint and paint and paint and paint and paint, you get a shitty looking paint. Well, that's not true. Some people can do that and get away with it in a particular style of paint, but generally what you find yourself doing is wanting to tint certain colors, blend, and all that takes glazing when you're working on flat 2D surface to get shading the way you want it and all that. So it's just kind of a mentality. And on 3Ds, it just works even better. Yeah, definitely, Lemon. I don't wash. Finicity, who needs showers? I'm totally agreeing with you. Embrace the stink, my friends. Embrace the stink, my friends. Oh, Hood's Gate. Yeah, I definitely will. I'll go back and look through them. I just don't like to on show. It would take us an hour to go back through everything that you guys showed off on Kenny's. But again, thank you guys. Dad jokes of your life. That's awesome. All right, gang, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I truly appreciate it. It is much love shown from you guys and hopefully back from us to you. I hope you were able to learn some stuff as we walked through and did this armature, right? So we've got the makings of super annoying alien snail dude. I'm really digging where this is going. We'll continue to work him up. I might do as I'm looking at it, I might do another armature piece that comes off of his back down to the tail to kind of give us that triangular filler, and maybe stuff it with some aluminum foil too, so that we can bulk up the back. But you've already seen me do that on the head. So like I said, I'll do a little bit of work on this. We'll be back next Friday with some more tutorial on sculpting where we actually start throwing clay at this thing. Until then, join us on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and we do painting. We paint things like I just showed. We paint all sorts of shit. Next week, we'll be working on more Kingdom Death. We'll be working on more Malifaux. We might sneak in some of my Infinity models in there. I've got to do some of my Infinity models. I'm trying to work in a day a week where it's my stuff, but I'm not succeeding. I got to do more on the Gore Chosen. So you never know what we're going to have every day. Just check the title, check Facebook, follow me on Facebook, Slow Fuse Gaming, Instagram, Slow Fuse Gaming, Twitter, Slow Fuse Gaming. I'm pretty redundant like that. It's pretty much Slow Fuse Gaming everywhere. So anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Love, love, love from you to me, from me to you. And thank you so much for the donations, for all the new follows. Have a safe weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And we will see you again on Tuesday. Adios, gang.